Chapter 519. What do I do if Monarch Songyong comes looking for me? After returning to his cave residence, Bai Lishang dismissed his attendants. Monarch Songyong is vicious and merciless. He's already found Dongbo Shuiying. He probably doesn't want to offend Dongbo Shuiying, which is why he decided to meet him. Fortunately, Dongbo Shuiying didn't agree so easily. But with Monarch Songyong keeping an eye on me, what can I do? And I still have to be careful of Dongbo Shuiying. If he notices that something is wrong, he might make a move on me, Bai Lishang thought. He was afraid of Monarch Songyong, and also afraid of Dongbo Shuiying stealing the treasure. Damn it! I've been hiding so carefully, but Monarch Songyong still chased after me. Bai Lishang was furious. And even now, I haven't been able to uncover the mysteries of the relic. Days passed. Bai Lishang was also very cautious, almost never leaving his cave residence. Even if he did, it would be within the supervisor envoy's residence. Not to mention him, even Dongbo Shuiying had sent his personal guards to strengthen their patrols and investigations, but they still couldn't find Monarch Songyong's men. In the blink of an eye, more than a month passed. The commander has been acting strange recently. He's either in seclusion or alone. Even we aren't allowed to approach him. The two maids secretly discuss with each other through voice transmissions. Not far away, there was another red-robed maid watching silently. This red-robed maid turned around and walked to a dark corner. At this time, a shadowy mist began to seep out from her pores, mouth, and nose. This gray mist flashed and seeped into the shadows of the corridor, disappearing without a trace. The shadow deity heart. On the surface, it was only a grade 2 deity heart, but it was very famous. This was because the Bloodblade, who was publicly recognized as the strongest in head-on combat in the deity world, was most famous for its three major techniques: Shadow, Destruction, and Bloodblade. The Shadow technique made Bloodblade extremely proficient in assassination, and it was known as the #1 assassin in both the deity world and the Dark Abyss. Because of this, Bloodblade had built countless Bloodblade taverns to serve assassins. Since the Bloodblade had reached an unimaginable level in Shadow, he naturally had a secret technique that he could pass on to others. It was just that it was very difficult to cultivate. The reason why World Deity Shen Tu had been sent to carry out the assassination was because he had cultivated the World Deity grade secret technique, Boundless Shadow, to an extremely high level and had become a super assassin. Goo goo goo. In the hall, Bai Lishang picked up the wine pot and drank a few mouthfuls. His eyes were filled with hostility. His clone was hiding in the quiet room, but his main body was here. The surrounding space was distorted, making it difficult to probe. When will these days end? Bai Lishang's eyes were filled with anger. Let's wait and endure. If Dongbo Shuiying becomes stronger and is able to fight against stage 4 world deities, then we will have to wait and see. I'm afraid I don't have to worry. After all, even if Monarch Songyong personally comes, Dongbo Shuiying will still be in his own territory. The arrays of the entire eastern region city will be supporting him, and he will definitely be able to fight against Monarch Songyong. However, the current Dongbo Shuiying is still too weak. He can't fight against Monarch Songyong. Bai Lishang continued to ponder, but he was unable to come up with any good ideas. Actually, there were other ways. For example, if he offered the relic to Dongbo Shuiying would most likely do his best to help him. For example, he could even send him to live in the Bloodshed God Palace. As long as he stayed in the territory of the God Emperor, he would be absolutely safe. However, Bai Lishang was unwilling to do so. After all, this relic was the greatest opportunity of his life. I'll just have to wait. Dongbo Shuiying's combat power is growing very quickly, Bai Lishang thought. Phew. Suddenly, a gray fog began to appear in the shadows cast by the distant sunlight. It rapidly condensed into the shape of a person wearing a black robe. Bai Lishang was so frightened that his face paled. He immediately recognized who it was. Shen Tu. World Deity Shen Tu was Monarch Songyong's most ferocious lackey who specialized in assassination. He's in your hands, right? A pair of green eyes stared at Bai Lishang from beneath the black robe. Bai Lishang panicked. Your Highness, save me. Save me. Hua. A black-robed figure appeared behind Bai Lishang, one in front of the other behind him. At the same time, a demonic green light lit up. It was so fast that it instantly enveloped Bai Lishang's body. In front of world deity Shen Tu, Bai Lishang was completely powerless. It was similar to how Dongbui Shuiying had been extremely weak in front of the stage 3 great demon god of the dark abyss when he cultivated the sealed world pagoda secret technique. It was only because the other party had his deity heart and world deity energy sealed that he was trapped and unable to escape that world deity Shen Tu had succeeded in killing him. In a head-on battle, world deity Shen Tu would have died in 2 or 3 moves. Bai Lishang was even weaker than Dongbui Shuiying. Furthermore, world deity Shen Tu specialized in assassinations. Every move he made was extremely ruthless. Chi after Bai Lishang's body was slashed by the demonic green light, the green light completely enveloped him, causing his body to rapidly disintegrate. Dongbui Shuiying, who was pondering the laws of heaven and earth and researching the extremity deity heart, suddenly received a message from his communication treasure. Your Highness, save me. Save me. What? Dongbui Shuiying was shocked. It's Bai Lishang. Could it be that Monarch Songyang's men have already infiltrated my supervisor envoy residence? The supervisor envoy residence was heavily guarded. There were personal guards patrolling the area, as well as arrays. Outsiders would normally be discovered. It was very difficult to avoid the arrays. However, there were countless secret techniques in the deity world, and there were all sorts of different methods. World deity Shen Tu's shadow clone had infiltrated the body of the maid, becoming one with her as he stealthily entered the residence. The arrays of the supervisor envoy residence could not detect him at all. Boom! Dongbui Shuiying did not have the time to be shocked. He immediately rushed out of the underground hall. Within Bai Lishang's cave residence, within his meditation room, Bai Lishang's other clone was there. His face was filled with anxiety, and he did not dare to move. World deity Shen Tu. It's actually world deity Shen Tu. He's too powerful. I'm not his match at all. Dongbui Shuiying, hurry up and come. This is your territory. I've already become your disciple, so why aren't you here yet? Hurry up. While within the meditation room, a shadowy figure condensed on the ground. Furthermore, it was not just one. There were dozens of shadowy figures in the vast meditation room, scattered in all directions. Shadows are everywhere. As soon as I entered your cave residence, I discovered your 2 bodies. Although the monarch said that through karma, both of your bodies were in the supervisor envoy residence, I did not expect you to be in the same cave residence. This makes things much easier for me. The dozens of black-robed figures spoke at the same time, their voices ringing in Bai Lishang's mind. Bai Lishang clutched his head in pain. It was too painful. Even his true deity heart was being tortured. A shadowy mist was currently surrounding his head. His face, eyes, nose, and mouth were all covered by the shadowy mist. Speak. Are the items with you? If you speak, you won't have to suffer. The shadowy mist's voice resounded in Bai Lishang's mind. No, they're not. Bai Lishang's mind responded anxiously. Within the meditation room, the dozens of black-robed figures raised their heads at the same time. His shadow covered every corner of the cave residence. When Dongbui Shuiying charged over, he naturally noticed it. You actually let Dongbui Shuiying come over? You're courting death. Following a cold snort of anger. No, Bai Lishang was terrified. Peng! Bai Lishang's body suddenly exploded and turned into ashes. Meanwhile, a shadowy mist enveloped all of Bai Lishang's belongings and quickly escaped. Chapter 520. Dongbui Shuiying immediately rushed out of his cultivation area and soared into the sky. With a flash, he appeared right above Commander Bai Lishang's cave dwelling. Many of the maids in the vicinity, as well as the personal guards patrolling in the distance, stared at Dongbui Shuiying in bewilderment. Why had their prince suddenly appeared in Commander Bai Li's cave dwelling? Stay here! Dongbui Shuiying bellowed. His voice reverberated throughout the entire supervisor envoy residence. Ha ha ha, Your Highness Dongbui, I have no other intentions in coming to your residence, nor do I have any intention of offending you. I'll be leaving right now. Please forgive me. Another cold and sinister voice resounded through the sky, and a shadowy mist instantly shot out of Commander Bai Lishang's cave dwelling and soared into the sky. At this time, the supervisor envoy residence was in an uproar. Jingqiu, Dongbui Yu, Dongbui Qingyao, and the others also came out to watch the scene from afar. However, no one else could help. Just the time it took for the personal guards to gather and surround the enemy was more than enough for the enemy to escape. Monarch Songyong actually sent someone to infiltrate my residence and assassinate the commander of my personal guards. Dongbu Shuiying was also filled with rage. This assassin who specializes in the shadows should be world deity Shen Tu, Monarch Songyong's subordinate. Dongbu Shuiying thought. He was familiar with all the famous powers in the deity world. Monarch Songyong had a total of 12 stage 3 world deities under his command, and world deity Shen Tu was famous for his assassination and slaughter. His strength was ranked in the top 3 of Monarch Songyong's subordinates. His actions are truly fast. It has only been a blink of an eye since I rushed out, and Commander Bai Li has already died. He is indeed good at assassination. Shui Ying's communication treasure Bai Li Shang, who was originally asking for help, had already quietened down forever. Don't even think about leaving today. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes were filled with coldness. World deity Shen Tu was currently fleeing at high speed. Not good. The entire Supervisor Envoy Mansion's array has been activated. After being reinforced by the Supervisor Envoys of the past, I can no longer use the boundless domain within the vicinity of the Supervisor Envoy Mansion. We have to rush out of the Supervisor's manor. Successive inspectors continued to strengthen the system. Although the method he used to sneak in was very coincidental, merging with the maid's body and avoiding the detection of the Supervisor's mansion. However, the more common infinite domain could not be used at all. Similarly, Dongbu Shuiying's world incarnation was also unable to break the formation. However, Dongbu Shuiying was the one controlling the formation of the Supervisor residence. If he suppressed his opponent, he naturally wouldn't suppress himself. Shua. Dongbu Shuiying instantly appeared above world deity Shen Tuesday. He stared coldly at the shadowy figure and shouted, "Shen Tu, are you still trying to escape? I didn't mean to offend you." A voice came from the shadowy figure. At the same time, the shadowy figure instantly split into tens of thousands of shadowy figures that flew in different directions. Dongbu Shuiying frowned. He only had a maximum of 9 world bodies. Of course, he could create countless weaker illusory bodies. However, those illusory bodies were too weak and would probably not be able to withstand his attacks. Dang dang dang, countless white chains rapidly flew out. All of them were condensed from luminous sun force. Moreover, the white chains flew at an extremely fast speed, as fast as light. If Dongbu Shuiying were to fly by himself, he would be able to reach a speed of 300,000 kilometers per second with his current strength. However, compared to the speed of light, it was still a huge distance away. Countless dazzling white chains instantly flew out in all directions. Their speed was even faster than that of the shadowy figures. Domain-type secret skill? Humph. The boundless deity heart specializes in survival. Any one of them can be an illusory body, and any one of them can be the real body. Do you think you can trap me with such a large-scale domain-type secret skill? World deity Shen Tu was very disdainful. Domain-type secret skills had a large area of effect and posed a much smaller threat to an individual. World prison. Dongbu Shuiying coldly watched everything. Countless thin chains had already spread out for millions of kilometers, binding every single shadow. All of the other shadows dissipated. One of the shadows began to solidify. How is this possible? This shadow had completely transformed into a black-robed man. His green eyes were filled with shock, and he struggled with all his might. With a pang, he shattered the countless white chains binding him. He looked at the distant Dongbu Shuiying in disbelief. Aside from being an expert in assassination, I can be considered top-notch even amongst stage 3 world deities in direct combat. I was actually nearly unable to break free. Dongbu Shuiying's domain-type secret skill is even stronger than the White Sand City Lord's Annihilation White Sand? The black-robed man was shocked and furious. Hua, countless white chains covered the sky and earth as they frenziedly attacked the black-robed man. The black-robed man immediately did his best to resist. For a moment, the surrounding bewitching green blade lights lit up, slashing the white chains into pieces. However, the black-robed man was clearly having a hard time escaping. The chains were so dense that they often wrapped around his body, forcing him to struggle free time and time again. His black robes were sent flying, revealing his true appearance. He had an ugly face, grayish-white skin, and a pair of eyes that glowed green. He looked extremely ugly and evil. "Your Highness Dongbua," world deity Shentu hurriedly shouted, "my monarch does not wish to become enemies with your Highness Dongbua. There is no need for us to fight each other. This time I have truly offended your Highness Dongbua, and I hereby apologize to your Highness. My monarch will also send you a gift after this matter is over to resolve this small conflict between our two families." Small conflict? Dongbua Shuiying took a step forward and appeared right in front of world deity Shen Tuesday. He looked at world deity Shentu and said, "You sent your subordinates to infiltrate my residence and kill the commander of my personal guard. And you're still talking about a small conflict? Do you think that I, Dongbua Shuiying, am that easy to bully?" World deity Shentu felt bitter in his heart. In the monarch's heart, offending Dongbua Shuiying was nothing much. It wasn't a big deal at all. After all, there were many talented world deities throughout history, but most of them eventually stopped at the stage 4 world deity realm. To take that final step and become a powerful existence was simply too rare. Just by looking at the number of powerful existences in the deity world over the years, one would be able to tell. It seems things have gotten a little troublesome. Who would have thought that other than the supervisor envoy residence's arrays, Dongbua Shuiying's domain-related secret skill would also be so powerful? Even I was nearly unable to break free from it. World deity Shentu felt apprehensive. Under such a domain-related secret skill, he would only be able to display 20 to 30% of his strength. It was impossible for him to be Dongbua Shuiying's opponent. How could he be so powerful? If his domain-related secret skill was so powerful, how could he have allowed the venomous Ying world deity to escape back then? World deity Shentu thought. According to the published intelligence, venomous Ying had escaped together with Dong Xiao in the nest of myriad devils, and Dongbua Shuiying's domain-related secret skill had been unable to stop them. World deity Shentu was extremely confident in his own strength, since even the venomous Ying, who was weaker in close combat, was able to break his domain-related secret skill. He believed that Dongbua Shuiying's domain-related secret skill would not affect him more than 30%. But he was wrong. Dongbua Shuiying's strength had far surpassed his expectations. What he did not know, however, was that after 30,000 years, Dongbua Shuiying, who had only been at the 3rd revolution of his luminous sun, had now reached the 4th revolution. If he could be said to be the strongest amongst stage 3 world deities in the past, then he was currently invincible amongst stage 3 world deities. In front of a weaker stage 4 world deity, he would most likely be able to withstand 2 or 3 moves. This was the luminous sun force at the grand completion of the 4th revolution. Even the domain-related secret skill he displayed was abnormally terrifying. No, we've never felt that your highness is easy to bully. It's just that this world deity Shangyi has offended our monarch, and our monarch is determined to kill him. He's even sent an emissary over, but they were unable to come to an agreement. We could only resort to this method, world deity Shentu said hurriedly. His voice was somewhat hoarse. This time it was indeed our side's fault. What's done is done, and there's no point in regretting it. Our monarch isn't willing to become enemies with your highness, so if your highness has any dissatisfaction, please state your conditions. Anything can be discussed. Chapter 521. Monarch Songyong had not mentioned beforehand how much he was willing to compensate. This was the excuse world deity Shentu gave in order to plead for a better outcome. He was clear that Shuiying's combat power had far surpassed his expectations. Although he was also adept at escaping, under the restrictions of the supervisor envoy's mansion's arrays and the terrifying domain secret skill, there was no way for him to escape. As such, he naturally began to think of ways to beg for mercy. After all, if he were to die in battle, even though this was only his body, he still had many treasures on him. If he were to die, his blood-refined divine weapon and many other treasures would all be gone. Moreover, he would have to cultivate his clone from the very beginning. Just the large amount of energy required to develop his inner world would be a huge expense. Thus, no matter what, he had to save his own life first. World deity Shentu squeezed out a smile on his ugly, ashen face. Your Highness, please state your conditions. My true body is by the monarch's side, so I can report this matter to him. Your Highness, your future is limitless, while my monarch has only cultivated for a short period of time to reach stage 4. Both your Highness and my monarch are destined to become overlords of our deity realm. Why should we form a grudge over such a trivial matter? If Monarch Songyong could make amends so easily, would he have dared to send you into my residence and kill my personal guard commander? Dongbo Shuiying sneered. You're just making things up. I'm not making things up. Your Highness, please state your conditions. I will help you pass on the message, and I can even temporarily stay in your Highness's residence. Once my monarch sends an apology, you can let me go, World Deity Shentu said. Since he could not escape, temporarily staying in the supervisor envoy's mansion was not a big deal. Dongbo Shuiying softly said, I'm guessing that you're saying all this to save your life. However, your monarch Songyong was too arrogant this time, completely disregarding me. Today, he dared to send someone to infiltrate my residence and kill my personal guard commander. Tomorrow, he'll probably send someone to infiltrate my residence and kill my family. The assassination had been carried out right under his nose. This caused Dongbo Shuiying's heart to palpitate. Clearly, in the eyes of those overlord-level existences, even if they gave Dongbo Shuiying some face, they could still fall out with him at any moment. After all, even though his master was the Bloodblade, God Emperor would not lower himself to act just because his disciples suffered a setback. This was impossible. Among the Almighties there were very few who truly protected their own. In the entire Bloodshed God Palace territory, there were only 2 people who were extremely protective of their people: Forefather Fierce Tyrant and Monarch Mother Whirlpool. When other Almighties nurtured their disciples, they allowed their disciples to fight and kill outside. If they died, they could only blame themselves for not being as skilled as others. Only with enough tempering could true experts be nurtured. If they were forever sheltered, they would never be able to truly rise. I wouldn't dare. World Deity Shentu hurriedly said. My true body has already gone to meet the monarch and inform him of this matter so that he can make a decision. Oh, Dongbo Shuiying frowned. His eyes were still filled with coldness. World Deity Shentu's true body had indeed gone to meet the monarch. Monarch Songyong's lofty figure sat on the throne, a row of huge bone spurs protruding from the back of his neck. His indifferent eyes looked down at the black-robed man kneeling before him. Your clone couldn't escape? It seems that Dongbo Shuiying's combat power is truly formidable. His Majesty God Emperor is truly extravagant. Powerful existences have risked their lives to obtain this treasure. Yet he casually gave it to a brat. Monarch, what should we do now? World Deity Shentu hurriedly asked. First, confirm whether or not World Deity Shangyi has obtained the relic, Monarch Songyong indifferently said. As for the rest, I'll leave it to you. Remember, do not embarrass me. Monarch Songyong understood that this subordinate of his wanted to protect his clone, so he spoke vaguely. Yes, World Deity Shentu respectfully replied. High up in the sky above the supervisor envoy's residence, under the watchful gazes of a large number of his personal guards, the various deities of the Xia people, Jingqiu, Dongboyu, Dongboqingao and the others, the black-robed world deity Shantu, who was shackled by countless white chains, was extremely nervous. At the same time he followed the monarch's orders and checked the items left behind by world deity Shangyi. Since world deity Shangyi was already dead, those items could be easily checked. Upon checking, the black-robed man discovered a wooden box within world deity Shangyi's storage treasure. Inside the wooden box was a black sphere. The black sphere was covered with complicated bumpy patterns. This black sphere stunned world deity Shentu for a moment. This was because he had long since seen the painting of this black sphere. Monarch Songyong had shown it to them before. He had ordered them to chase after the fleeing world deities and search for the black sphere among the items left behind by them. The moment they found it, they were to immediately bring it back. The relic is actually with world deity Shangyi. The black-robed man was both excited and nervous. He was excited because with the relic he could make any promise he wanted. He believed that Monarch Songyong would not blame him. However, what made him nervous was that he was afraid that Dongbo Shuiying would kill him. If Dongbo Shuiying were to kill his avatar, not only would he lose his avatar, he would also lose the relic. As a capable subordinate of the monarch, He was very clear on how much the monarch had paid for the relic. If the relic were to fall into Dongbu Shuiying's hands, it would be too difficult to get it back. Dongbu Shuiying was not as easy to deal with as world deity Shangyi was. Your Highness, Your Highness. World deity Shen Tu looked at Dongbu Shuiying and squeezed out a smile. I've already reported this matter to the monarch, and he reprimanded me, saying that I didn't do it cleanly enough. Originally, the monarch had already made preparations. He knew that Your Highness would not agree to it, but the monarch still wanted to kill Shangyi. Thus, he took the risk and sent me over to secretly deal with Shangyi. Afterwards, he sent an envoy to discuss this matter. After all, Your Highness has a boundless future ahead of you. How could the monarch be willing to form a grudge with Your Highness? It's just that I didn't expect Your Highness to be so powerful. Although I specialize in concealment, assassination, and escaping, I wasn't able to escape in the end. World deity Shen Tu hurriedly said, Our monarch heard that Your Highness is searching for demon bone ash, and he is willing to offer you 5 kilograms of demon bone ash. Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. No matter how angry he was previously, he was now somewhat shocked. 5 kilograms of demon bone ash? After he became the supervisor, he had sent Shiwei to search for demon bone ash. Even after 30,000 years, he had only managed to buy 1.5 kilograms of demon bone ash. Demon bone ash was extremely precious and rare. Your monarch is able to take out 5 kilograms of demon bone ash? Dongbu Shuiying frowned. He can. The monarch said it himself. World deity Shen Tu hurriedly said. He was lying through his teeth. He didn't know whether the monarch had demon bone ash or not. All he knew was that Dongbu Shuiying had been searching for demon bone ash for a long time. There were indeed some powers that gave Dongbu Shuiying face and sold him some demon bone ash. As long as he could stall for time, as long as he could protect the ruins and deliver the treasure to the monarch, his mission would be a success. 5 kilograms of demon bone ash? Dongbu Shuiying frowned. I heard from Bai Lishang that a large number of world deities escaped from the ruins. Do you mean to compensate with 5 kilograms of demon bone ash for every world deity you kill? Can your monarch even afford it? Stage 4 world deities were indeed much wealthier, but 5 kilograms of demon bone ash was worth more than 500 million deity crystals. Monarch Songyong was also considered young, unlike Monarch Mo Shui, who had lived for a very long time. How much wealth could he possibly have? How could he compensate so much just to kill a stage 2 world deity? Isn't it because of Your Highness? I only need to compensate you, World deity Shen Tu said. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. World deity Shen Tu, I don't believe you. So I'll have to ask you to die. Boom! 9 Dongbu Shuiying immediately appeared in the surroundings, each of them wielding a spear. For a moment, a world-destroying might surrounded world deity Shen Tu, and attacked him simultaneously with the spear technique, destruction. For a moment, the surroundings were plunged into darkness. World deity Shen Tu revealed a look of terror. His body immediately turned into countless shadowy streams of air as he tried his best to escape. At the same time, his voice reverberated. I'm telling the truth. I don't believe you. Firstly, if Monarch Songyong was this sincere, then the emissary would not have been so arrogant when he came to negotiate. Secondly, I don't think that Monarch Songyong is that afraid of me. In order to resolve my anger, he's willing to give me 5 kilograms of demon bone ash. Thirdly, all of this was said by you and not by Monarch Songyong himself. I think that you're trying to stall for time in order to preserve your life. Fourthly, and the most important point, you killed the commander of my personal guard. Right now my personal guard is watching, and even the countless deities of Eastern Region City are watching. If I let you go, how can I, Dongbu Shuiying, convince the masses? Dongbu Shuiying said coldly. Rumble, the area surrounded by world deity Shen Tu collapsed into darkness. The shadowy streams of air scattered in all directions, but they were destroyed time and time again. It was extremely difficult to kill someone who cultivated the boundless deity heart. However, the difference in strength was just too great. World deity Shen Tu was also heavily injured time and time again, causing his energy consumption to become more and more severe. My monarch will definitely send someone to apologize. No, my monarch has said that he will come personally. World deity Shen Tu's voice reverberated throughout the area of darkness. I'll first kill this clone of yours. If your monarch is sincere, then send an emissary to apologize, Dongbu Shuang said. Shuang said. As soon as he finished speaking, world deity Shentu's remnant figure could no longer hold on any longer. Following the destruction of the final shadow stream, this avatar of world deity Shentu was finally exterminated. With a wave of his hand, Dongbu Shuang collected all the treasures left behind by world deity Shen Tuesday. He then took a step forward and traversed through space to the side of his wife and children. He felt that world deity Shentu's credibility was too low. Moreover, Monarch Songyong had given him a huge slap in the face. How could he let Shentu off just like that? Monarch Songyong sat on his throne and looked down at the black-robed figure. World deity Shentu hurriedly said, Monarch, I tried everything I could to beg for mercy and made many promises. However, Dongbu Shuang still acted and destroyed my clone. Made many promises? Tried everything you could to beg for mercy? Monarch Songyong indifferently said, I already told you not to embarrass me. No. World deity Shentu hurriedly said, Monarch, you asked me to investigate the treasures left behind by world deity Shangyi. I discovered that the black sphere was exactly the same as the object in the painting scroll you showed us. What? Monarch Songyong abruptly stood up. A terrifying grayish-white aura surged out, and Monarch Songyong's eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. Where's the relic? He had desired it for a very long time. For the sake of this relic, he was willing to give up everything else, including his blood-refined deity warrior and even his empire. This was also the reason why he had to use karma to investigate the whereabouts of so many world deities who had escaped. My clone has been killed, and the relic has fallen into Dongbu Shuiying's hands, world deity Shentu said. Chapter 522. The towering monarch Songyong stood there, causing the world around him to tremble. He looked down at world deity Shentu and bellowed, Scram. Yes, this subordinate will take his leave. World deity Shentu felt his heart palpitate as he hurriedly took his leave. Normally, he was the monarch's right-hand man, and the monarch would normally place great importance on him. Yet, at this moment he had actually said the word scram. Clearly Monarch Songyong was extremely furious. World deity Shentu did not find this strange in the slightest, as he was very clear on how much the monarch had paid for this. The relic has landed in the hands of Dongbu Shuang, and Dongbu Shuang probably won't be able to hold on to it for long. Monarch Songyong will definitely go all out. What empire, subordinates, authority? All of these were external things. For the sake of power, everything could be abandoned. Within the gloomy space, Monarch Songyong slowly sat down on his throne and let out a low chuckle. Ha ha ha. Although there have been some twists and turns and troubles, at the very least I've found the relic. I originally thought that this relic didn't exist. Monarch Songyong's eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation. I only chased after those world deities who escaped because I was unwilling to give up. Who would have thought that world deity Shangyi would actually be able to take away the relic? Those fools. How could they possibly understand how precious this relic is? Even if it was left with them, they wouldn't be able to use it. If I were to obtain this relic, I, Songyong, would become much stronger. I would be ranked at the very top amongst stage for world deities, and I might even be able to fight against powerful existences. Monarch Songyong's eyes were filled with excitement. Fighting above one's level was extremely difficult. Stage 4 world deities would begin to comprehend other things by analogy and grasp many other grade 1 deity hearts. As a result, the gap between them and powerful existences was relatively small. This gave them hope of fighting against powerful existences. However, even though each and every one of them had tyrannical strength and were said to be close to powerful existences, even so, close was still somewhat lacking. Only those who had fought against powerful existences without being defeated, only then could they be considered as truly powerful existences. Among stage 4 world deities there would only be 1 in 10 of them. An old man like Monarch Mo Shui who had lived for a very long time had done it before. As for the other outstanding overlords, even though big senior brother Huiming had a great reputation and was ranked in the front amongst the stage 4 world deities, he was only known as almost comparable to an almighty, or almost comparable to an almighty. This was because big senior brother Huiming did not have the battle record of fighting against an almighty without being defeated. After all, almighties had lived for a long time and were not to be trifled with. Most of the peak stage 4 world deities could only flee for their lives in front of the almighties. It was very difficult to not be at a disadvantage. As long as I obtain this treasure, my strength will increase greatly. Secondly, I can also carefully comprehend it, and the possibility of transcending from the river of time will increase. Moreover, after my strength increases greatly, I can also rely on this to explore even more dangerous places. Monarch Songyong thought to himself, this relic treasure is my greatest opportunity. We must get it. I'll kill whoever dares to stop me. Monarch Songyong's eyes were filled with coldness. Transcending. This was something every stage 4 world deity desired. They had all lived for billions of years and were willing to do anything for the sake of transcending. Dongbo Shuiying? Monarch Songyong sneered. Although he's the personal disciple of God Emperor would never interfere in a normal fight. The temperament of Bloodblade was well known in the deity world and abyss. Even if I kill this body of Dongbo Shuiying, he's still a lord of a material world, and his true body is still in the material world. In truth, he wouldn't truly die. God Emperor would have even less reason to act, Monarch Songyong thought to himself. However, there's no need to be too ruthless. This Dongbo Shuiying will also become an overlord in the future. This time, I'll give him some face and not kill him. I'll directly capture him, seal his true deity heart, and seize his treasures. As for the other treasures, I'll just take the relic away. Monarch Songyong had already made up his mind. As long as he wasn't too ruthless, there was still room for negotiation in the future. If he were to kill Dongbo Shuiying's avatar this time, the enmity between them would probably grow. I can be considered benevolent. If he insists on fighting, do you think I'll be afraid of him after I obtain the relic? Monarch Songyong sneered. At that time, he was confident that he could surpass realms to fight powerful existences. Prepare. I need to act quickly. I also need to set up an array to seal off a radius of 1 trillion kilometers. Even if the Calm Sea Prefecture Master comes to rescue me, I should be able to delay him for a bit. Monarch Songyong calculated. In truth, he was confident that he could deal with Dongbo Shuiying in a single move. However, since the relic was involved, he could not be too careful. After all, he could not afford to lose. The relic had to be snatched back at all costs. Within the Calm Sea Prefecture, within the Supervisor Envoy's residence in East Region City. Your Highness. A group of subordinates rushed over. They were the commanders of Dongbo Shuiying's personal guard, as well as many Stage 2 world deities. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. I was a step too slow. Commander Bai Li was assassinated by world deity Shen Tu, but his avatar was also destroyed by me. World deity Shen Tu? The commanders and guests were all inwardly shocked. That was a Stage 3 world deity who specialized in assassination and hiding, yet he had been killed by His Highness just like that? Not even he had been able to escape? Alright, you can all leave, Dongbo Shuiying said. He was not in a good mood. Although he had killed one of the enemy's avatars, the commander of his personal guards was truly dead. Yes. Everyone quickly left. Even Dongbo Yu, Dongbo Qingyao and Qingyao were given a signal by his mother Jingqiu. Only Jingqiu accompanied Dongbo Shuiying. Snow Eagle Monarch Songyong actually sent his subordinate into our residence to kill the commander of your personal guard. Is his killing intent that heavy? There's no need to think too much about it. There's nothing we can do to Monarch Songyong, Dongbo Shuiying said. This time I killed one of his subordinates to vent my anger. In the end, I'm the one who suffered a loss. After all, my subordinate commander was truly killed. I reckon that this matter will end here. Yes. Jingqiu nodded. Based on their predictions, Bai Lishang was dead, while world deity Shen Tu had only lost a clone. There should not be any follow-up to this matter. Their predictions were not wrong. However, they did not expect that after world deity Shen Tu's clone died, an extremely important treasure would fall into Dongbo Shuiying's hands. It was destined that Monarch Songyong would not let this matter rest. The two of them chatted as they walked. At the same time, Dongbo Shuiying split his attention to inspect the treasure he had obtained after killing world deity Shen Tu's day originally, He had only done so casually. After all, with the treasures he had inherited from Crimson Rock Mountain, the treasures of a Stage 3 world deity were nothing to him. But what's this? Dongbu Shuiying immediately discovered a black sphere placed within a wooden box. The black sphere was covered with countless uneven veined patterns. Just those incomparably mysterious veined patterns alone gave Dongbu Shuiying the feeling that he was peering into the vast starry sky. He instantly understood that this was a mysterious treasure. After informing his wife, he immediately went into seclusion and began his investigation. In an underground hall, Dongbu Shuiying placed the wooden box on the ground in front of him and opened it, revealing the black sphere. It must be some sort of mysterious treasure. But what use does it have? Dongbu Shuiying was puzzled. Even with his experience, he could not immediately tell what the black sphere was used for. In the void outside Eastern Region City, a Starfield flying ship flew out. Standing on the ship was a cold-looking, bald man with bone spikes protruding from the back of his neck. He looked at the distant Eastern Region City, and an invisible pressure began to spread out. In an instant, the entire Eastern Region City had fallen into his world deity domain. "My treasure, I'm coming." Monarch Songyong's eyes were filled with fanaticism. He had waited far too long for this day. Chapter 523. Monarch Songyong's gaze fell on the spatial transfer array outside Eastern Region City. Immediately, countless streams of gray energy appeared out of thin air, wrapping around the soldiers responsible for guarding the transfer array. The soldiers were all terrified, but they were unable to struggle at all. At the same time, the gray energy seeped into the transmission array, digging out a part of the complex array foundation. The teleportation formation has been crippled for the time being. With a single step, Monarch Songyong traversed a great distance and arrived in the sky above Eastern Region City. East Region City was surrounded by a winding river that was 1 trillion kilometers long, like a ribbon protecting the city. Monarch Songyong overlooked everything that was happening. At the same time, countless streams of gray qi appeared in all directions outside the massive East Region City, vaguely forming an incomparably large and complex spirit formation. At the same time, Monarch Songyong threw out 2 formation plates, which pierced through space and appeared in 2 different directions within the East Region City, becoming the eye of the enormous spirit formation. The power of the formation increased exponentially. Even if the Calm Sea Prefecture Master comes, the array should be able to hold him off for a while. Monarch Songyong was exceptionally cautious. He had even prepared the array plate beforehand. As a Stage 4 world deity, Monarch Songyong's world deity domain was incomparably vast, even larger than the entire East Region City. The countless gods in the Eastern Region City did not notice at all. Even if the guards of the teleportation formation were trapped and their true deity hearts were sealed, they could not report it at all. Therefore, even though the vast starry sky outside East Region City had formed a terrifying sealing formation, everything within East Region City remained normal. Supervisor Residence. Jing Qiu, who was dressed in a deep blue robe, was at the edge of a large lake in the mansion, boiling fruit wine. The aroma of fruit wine wafted from the mouth of the wine pot. In fact, many of the personal guards and attendants within the mansion were muttering to themselves. Their madam rarely entered closed-door cultivation. Madam, isn't she the slightest bit interested in becoming a world deity? The lifespan of a deity is too short. They can't accompany your highness for too long. Many subordinates and attendants muttered to themselves, but no one dared to say it out loud. Dongbu Shuiying did mention that Jing Qiu was able to bluff her way out of it. She said that her main body was cultivating diligently in her hometown, and this clone of hers was there to observe the heavens and earth. Dongbu Shuiying also realized that his wife wasn't lying. Her main body did frequently accelerate time to cultivate. But why was the clone so lazy? Was being so relaxed really beneficial to cultivation? Based on what Dongbu Shuiying knew, most cultivators would encounter a bottleneck, and no matter how hard they cultivated, it would be futile. That was the reason why they would look into the world and search for an opportunity to break through. Jing Qiu was only at the first god tier. She was still far from the bottleneck. Jing Qiu suddenly raised her head and looked towards the distant sky. A trace of coldness appeared in her gentle eyes. Monarch Songyong? He was here and he was actually setting up a spirit formation. Snow Eagle only killed one of his clones, and it can't be considered a real kill, but he still doesn't let it go. Monarch Songyong had set up a vast sealing formation around Eastern Region City. Any outsider would have to break through the obstruction of the sealing formation before they could enter Eastern Region City. Dongbua Shuang. After finishing his preparations, Monarch Songyong prepared to take action. Songyong. A cold voice sounded. Monarch Songyong was startled. He saw a vast stream of white light shoot up into the sky from Eastern Region City, flying high into the sky to confront him from afar. It was a silver-haired, white-robed woman wearing a silver mask. Her long silver hair fluttered in the wind, reaching all the way down to her heels. Her entire body was emitting an incomparably astonishing chill. Monarch Songyong looked at the masked, white-robed woman in confusion. Deity realm? How can she only be a deity? Just the terrifying speed at which she had flown up had already made him feel somewhat threatened. She should be a stage 4 world deity. How could she be a deity? But the aura of the white-robed woman in front of him was indeed only at the deity realm. Who are you? Monarch Songyong frowned. He should have recognized all of the stage 4 world deities of the deity world, but he was unable to recognize her. Songyong, you sent your subordinate to assassinate the commander of Dongbua Shuiying's personal guard. What's wrong? Your subordinate only lost one of his clones, yet you've come personally? The silver-haired, white-robed woman stood high up in the sky. At the same time, the vast void around her, as well as the entire area within 100 billion kilometers of Eastern Region City, began to condense into a cold that could be seen with the naked eye. Cold, bone-chilling cold. Even Monarch Songyong felt a chill drilling into his body. Everything within 100 billion kilometers was frozen solid. The silver-haired, white-robed woman looked at Monarch Songyong, as if she was the ruler of everything. I advise you to leave. You think you can persuade me to leave? This clone of yours is actually only at the deity realm and hasn't even reached the world deity realm. You think you can stop me? Monarch Songyong's body swayed and suddenly expanded. His body instantly became towering. Although he could not compare to Eastern Region City, he was still much larger than the capital cities of most starfields. Bone spurs protruded from his body, emitting a savage aura. Scram! Monarch Songyong waved his hand and grabbed at the woman, his 5 fingers curled up. The silver-haired, white-robed woman stood in the distance, watching the gigantic hand that blotted out the sun come grabbing at her. In the blink of an eye, strands of ice-cold sword light flew out from her body. Some of these sword lights were abnormally ferocious, while others were gentle and coiled around her. Countless ice-cold sword lights instantly met the gigantic hand. Hong long long. The collision was accompanied by a deafening boom. The towering monarch Songyong staggered a step back, and a large number of sword lights were similarly shattered. So it's your highness. I heard that you're already dead. But who would have thought that not only are you still alive, you've even broken through from stage 3 to stage 4. You're truly courageous to actually dare to show yourself. Monarch Songyong fiercely pulled out 2 of the bone spurs on his back and madly charged forward. You're just a newly promoted stage 4 world deity, and you don't even have a blood-refined deity warrior or a world deity domain. Yet you still want to stop me? Hong long long. For the sake of obtaining the relic, Monarch Songyong did not hold back at all. For a moment the heavens shook and the earth cracked. Stopping you isn't a problem at all. Furthermore, the Calm Sea Prefecture Master will be here soon. The silver-haired woman coldly said. It's useless even if he comes. As for you, you won't be able to stop me. Monarch Songyong was incomparably ruthless. There was a sealing array outside, so it would not be that easy to barge in. In the supervisor envoy's residence, in an underground hall. Rewinding time back to the time when Dongbua Shuiying was examining the Black Sphere. What's this treasure used for? Dongbua Shuiying even sent his consciousness into the Black Sphere to carefully examine it. He pondered over it, but for a moment he was unable to make sense of it. However, when he infused his world deity energy into the Black Sphere, immediately, the uneven patterns on the Black Sphere began to emit light. Countless patterns began to shine, illuminating the surrounding void. An incomparably profound and complex 3-dimensional diagram was formed. This is? Looking at this profound three-dimensional diagram, Ying was shocked. This was no longer just a simple examination of the patterns. Seeing the three-dimensional diagram reflected in the air with his own eyes left him somewhat dazed. It was too complex, too profound, and the various laws of profound mysteries within it were simply inconceivable. As a cultivator, Ying could not help but immerse himself in it. After immersing himself in it, he began to feel and comprehend it. It was only natural. Boom. A mysterious spherical illusion appeared behind Ying's back. This spherical illusion seemed to be very big but also very small at the same time. The concept of spacetime was unable to describe it. It was the origin of all laws in the world, and it was also the end of all laws. Ying opened his eyes, and the spherical illusion of the extremity point appeared behind him. I didn't understand the secret of this treasure, but it touched me, allowing me to break through and grasp the extremity deity heart. A smile appeared on Ying's face. I finally become a stage 3 world deity. It's even faster than I expected. Chapter 524. Within Ying's sea of consciousness, the little person became even more tender, as though he was a real person. His pair of eyes brought about an invisible pressure. After reaching stage 3, his true deity heart became even more condensed and powerful, and the surrounding illusory world became even clearer. Evolve. Hong Long Long, within his inner world, countless deity crystals were being absorbed and converted into energy to fuel the evolution of his inner world. The originally vast world of 1 billion kilometers was now frantically expanding in all directions. For a moment, the earth within the inner world rumbled, and the earth became deeper and deeper. The sky became higher and higher, and the land was also rapidly expanding, eroding the ocean. But the ocean was similarly expanding, becoming bigger and bigger. Even some islands began to appear within the ocean, and at the center of the ocean, a continent began to appear. The world of 1 billion kilometers was rapidly expanding to 10 billion kilometers. The extremity deity heart lies in the origin, the beginning, the end, and the one. After he had comprehended the laws of the world and fused them with the extremity deity heart, Ying's inner world's operating laws became more complete, and the range of his ability also became larger. Originally, within the inner world, although all living things could grow, it was chaotic and disorderly. Some grew very quickly and some withered very quickly as well. Some crazily invaded the area of growth. It was very chaotic. But now there was an invisible hand controlling the entire inner world. The extremity deity heart was the beginning and end of all living things. It was the final core one, and it faintly controlled the laws of all living things. For a moment, the entire inner world underwent a huge change, and everything became orderly. All sorts of plants, flowers, and trees harmonized with one another, and the grasslands, deserts, and other areas all had formless restrictions. The entire world was one. It's getting more and more perfect. In the sky above the world of 10 billion kilometers, a huge face appeared, overlooking this beautiful world. Glaciers, grasslands, plains, deserts, mountains, all living things were growing and withering. Everything was so beautiful. I'm getting closer to the real world. Ying understood that it was difficult to draw the heart, and he was able to evolve the inner world closer to the real world. But to truly transform it into a real world, to give birth to living things, to allow humans to grow and die of old age, to allow souls to reincarnate, this was too difficult. This was also the reason why it was so difficult for stage 4 world deities to transcend and become powerful existences. After becoming a powerful existence, the inner world would naturally evolve into a real world, possessing the perfect laws of the world. Ying opened his eyes and waved his hand. 38 golden beads and 2 dark golden bones appeared on the ground in front of him. This dark golden bone only had the appearance of a bone on the surface. In fact, it was formed naturally after a long period of time in a special environment. It was the crystallization of nature, not the bones of a corpse. Just these 2 demon bones Ash had taken Ying over 30,000 years of hard work to gather. It was only because he was on good terms with Ying that he was able to sell them to him. These 2 demon bones Ash only weighed a little more than 1.5 gene. Dongbua Shuiying's nostrils immediately inhaled a mixture of golden light from the golden bead and demon bone ash. One was the pure golden light from the golden bead, and the other was the dark gray light from demon bone ash. They were quickly absorbed into his inner world and started to transform. Because his true body in the Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world had 100-fold time acceleration, he naturally became a Stage 3 world deity. He had already begun to research the third volume of the Luminous Sun Absolute Art. The first revolution of the third volume of the Luminous Sun was too simple. After all, Dongbua Shuiying had already mastered the fourth revolution of the second volume. Back in the Crimson Rock Mountain, his true body had instantly comprehended it. The second revolution of the third volume was slightly more profound. However, Dongbua Shuiying had been pondering over the spear technique destruction for many years. He had long since gained experience in fusing worlds, chaos holes and extremities. Thus he only needed a day to comprehend it. Although it was said to be a day because of the 100-fold time acceleration, only a few moments had passed in the outside world. Above the inner world, the white clouds were condensed from countless luminous sun force. Clearly, the luminous sun force had evolved by another level. This third revolution. As Dongbua Shuiying pondered, his true body in the Crimson Rock Mountain was also pondering. The third revolution of the third volume was clearly much more complex and profound. For a moment, Dongbua Shuiying was filled with all sorts of questions. It would probably take him 10,000 years or even longer to ponder over it. After all, he had just stepped into the Stage 3 world deity, unlike when he first cultivated the luminous sun. In reality, he had already cultivated for 100,000 years under the time acceleration. Although his main focus was on researching the destruction of spear techniques, he still had a deep foundation. After obtaining the luminous sun absolute art, he was just a step away from mastering the second volume of the third revolution. After becoming a supervisor, he reached the third revolution not long after. Only after 20,000 years in the real world did he finally step into the fourth revolution. Hong long long. A violent shockwave transmitted over from afar. By the time it reached the supervisor's residence, it was already very weak. However, Dongbua Shuiying could still sense it. What's going on? Shuiying, who had been puzzled over his cultivation of the luminous sun, suddenly snapped out of his daze. With a wave of his hand, he collected the golden fiend crystal, demon bone ash, and the mysterious black sphere. He had just broken through, so he did not have the time to continue researching the black sphere. At this moment, countless deities in the entire eastern region city had noticed the great battle taking place in the sky. Monarch Songyong had been secretly laying down a formation, and had sent his own world deity domain down. Jing, who was also a Stage 4 world deity and was in the midst of comprehending the world, instantly noticed that Dongbua Shuiying had been cultivating the luminous sun absolute art in seclusion and had not paid any attention to the outside world. What's going on? Wow. Who's fighting? A commotion broke out in the supervisor's residence and the distant Eastern Blaze army camp. Many world deities raised their heads to look at the sky. In fact, there were even more deities who were gasping in surprise. Their eyesight was extremely astonishing, and they could clearly see the battle taking place. Too powerful. Dongbua and Qingyao also raised their heads in surprise. There were also many servants and subordinates around them. Where's mother? Where's mother? Dongbua and the others were also paying attention to their surroundings. She's probably watching the battle from somewhere else in the residence. Dongbua and Qingyao also raised their heads in excitement. South. A figure suddenly appeared. It was none other than Dongbua Shuiying. Dongbua Shuiying raised his head to look at the sky and saw countless amounts of frost condensing, enveloping the entire sky above Eastern Region City. At the center of the frost was a silver-haired, white-robed woman. She wore a mask and countless sword lights surged around her, forming all sorts of arrays over and over again as she attacked the savage giant. Monarch Songyong was currently 5 billion kilometers tall and towering. Everyone in Eastern Region City could clearly see his enormous figure. Monarch Songyong held a bone spear in each of his hands, seemingly capable of ripping apart the world. He disregarded the obstruction of the frost and attacked again and again. In the distance, the silver-haired, white-robed woman quickly dodged while controlling the countless sword lights to defend herself. You can't block it. Since you insist on doing so, then die. Monarch Songyong was incomparably savage. You? The silver-haired, white-robed woman's cold voice resounded throughout the world. Dongbua Shuiying frowned. Monarch Songyong? Who was that silver-haired, white-robed woman? Why didn't I have any information about her in my memories? Songyong! Dongbua Shuiying bellowed. Boom! In an instant, he shot into the sky, piercing through the void and arriving near the distant battlefield. That was because the battlefield was within the range of the arrays, and void piercing was impossible. Father! Your Highness, be careful. Dongbua Yushi Wei Gobai He Fei Yun, and the others all felt their hearts tighten. They all recognized that this was Monarch Songyong. His opponent was most likely a stage 4 world deity. General Mo of the Eastern Blaze Army was currently relying on the arrays of Eastern Region City to protect himself from the shockwaves of the terrifying battle. Dongbua Shuiying, who was only a stage 2 world deity, had already charged over. Shi Wei, He Fei Yun, and the others were all focused on the battle above. Only when Dongbua Shuiying charged out did they realize that they had not been able to observe the battle in detail. Nor did they realize that Dongbua Shuiying was already a stage 3 world deity. Monarch Songyong and the silver-haired, white-robed woman exchanged blows for less than a breath's worth of time before they saw a figure piercing through the void. It was none other than the spear-wielding black-robed youth. Dongbua Shuiying? You actually dare to come? Monarch Songyong was overjoyed, but then his expression changed. He could tell with a single glance. A stage 3 world deity? Bang! The area around Dongbua Shuiying immediately began to condense the other 9 world bodies. Suppress. Monarch Songyong's lips curled into a sneer. His terrifying world deity domain suppressed everything, including the area around Dongbua Shuiying. Every strand of world energy was suppressed by the laws, making it impossible for Dongbua Shuiying to use it. Naturally, he was unable to condense a world body. The world body required world energy to form. If he could not use world energy, then this move would be useless. Dongbua Shuiying, when it comes to world control, you are no match for me. Monarch Songyong sneered. As expected of a stage 4 world deity, Dongbua Shuiying was secretly apprehensive. Stage 4 world deities were able to comprehend and grasp many grade 1 deity hearts. Clearly, Monarch Songyong had also grasped a world deity heart, and his realm was even more profound. Eat my spear first. The fiery red scarlet cloud spear in Dongbua Shuiying's hand instantly streaked across the sky. The spear rapidly expanded, traversing hundreds of millions of kilometers as it pierced towards Monarch Songyong with unparalleled might. Monarch Songyong was originally filled with disdain, but the moment the spear pierced out, his expression abruptly changed. The might of the spear was already at the level of a stage 4 world deity. Even so, he's still not my opponent. Monarch Songyong brandished the bone spear in his hand and faced the attack head-on. The silver-haired, white-robed masked woman was watching this scene unfold from afar. Dongbua Shuiying had also noticed her. Who is she? She seems to be a deity, thought Dongbua Shuiying. Dongbua Shuiying thought. In order to conceal her identity, Yu Jingqiu had completely retracted her aura. She was only using the sword light generated by her secret technique to fight. She had deliberately retracted her aura. Be it her fighting style, her aura, her clothes, her hair, or even her figure, everything had changed. Naturally, Dongbua Shuiying was unable to recognize her at first glance. This was the wife who had shared his bed with him. Chapter 525. The huge bone spear clashed with the scarlet cloud spear, and Dongbua Shuiying could only feel layers upon layers of energy continuously corroding his spear, causing him to stagger back. An absolute art is this powerful? A newly ascended stage 3 world deity like you can actually fight someone of a higher realm? Monarch Songyong was furious. In the past, he had never placed stage 3 world deities in his eyes. But while Dongbua Shuiying was inferior to him, the gap between them was no longer that great. Careful! A voice transmitted into Dongbua Shuiying's ears. Dongbua Shuiying, although Monarch Songyong's attacks seem tyrannical, they are actually sinister. They specialize in infiltration, corrosion, decay, and annihilation. The distant silver-haired, white-robed woman was also controlling countless sword lights to help attack Monarch Songyong. Songyong! What have you come to my eastern region city for? Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand and swept out with his spear. The spear spanned over 100 million kilometers, displaying its ferocious might. You killed my subordinate, and now you want to pretend that nothing happened? Monarch Songyong charged forward, using the bone spear in his hands to block yet another spear strike. Who are you trying to fool? Your subordinate is just a clone, yet you're willing to risk your life like this? Shuiying sneered. He could feel the huge weakness in his comprehension of the laws and profound mysteries. Even though the luminous sun force was strong in terms of strength and speed, it was still not enough. Although his luminous sun force was extremely powerful in terms of speed and strength, he was only at the second transition. His spear technique suddenly changed and he used his killer move. Bang! The spear stabbed out, causing everything around it to collapse and collapse. When it was compressed to the limit, it burst forth with a terrifying penetrative power. This move? Monarch Songyong was startled. The bone spear in his hands transformed into a circle, forming circular ripples. The spear tip collided with the circular ripples. Monarch Songyong's expression began to change. Again, Dongbua Shuiying was incomparably valiant, his spear fiercely attacking time and time again. He didn't use any techniques like the world prison, and he didn't even get close. This was because the battle had happened too quickly, and he didn't have the time to think about other secret skills. For example, he did not cultivate the time immemorial body. The only spear art he was proficient in was destruction. This was because this move relied on the fusion of the world, chaos and extremity deity hearts. Now that Dongbua Shuiying had used this move a few times, his spear art was getting more and more proficient. At the side, there were also countless sword gleams that surrounded and attacked crazily. Their might was not inferior to that of Dongbua Shuiying. With the two of them working together, Monarch Songyong was unable to deal with them for a while. Damn it! Why is this Dongbua Shuiying so strong? How am I supposed to capture him when he's so strong? Forget about capturing him, we can't even kill him. Monarch Songyong glanced at the silver-haired, white-robed woman in the distance. Her Highness, the Empyrean Maiden, is still in the deity realm. She doesn't even have a world deity domain, and she can only rely on her secret techniques to fight with me. Dongbua Shuiying is also a newly advanced third celestial layer. With his absolute art and this spear technique, both of them are slightly weaker than me. If I were to fight them one-on-one, I reckon that I might stand a chance if I spend more time on them. But now that the two of them are working together, they won't be able to win even if they fight for 2 hours. Where did Her Highness Empyrean Fairy come from? And it's such a coincidence that he's in Eastern Region City? Monarch Songyong muttered to himself. Suddenly, Monarch Songyong's expression changed as he looked behind him. In the distant starry sky, a starfield flying ship had appeared. At the prow of the starfield flying ship was an amiable-looking old man. However, even from a distance, this old man gave off a terrifying aura that seemed to engulf the boundless starry sky. There was even a faint image of a gigantic dragon head in the vast starry sky. Calm Sea Prefecture Master. Monarch Songyong's heart trembled. Although he had great potential, he was still a member of the younger generation. The Calm Sea Prefecture Master had lived for an extremely long time. His lifespan was even comparable to Monarch Mo Shui's. The fact that he had lived for so long without going crazy or reincarnating was a testament to his strength. From this, one could see his strength. It was publicly acknowledged that his strength was close to that of a powerful existence. The only thing he lacked in comparison to Monarch Mo Shui was the fact that he had yet to truly fight against a powerful existence without losing. Regardless, he was not someone Monarch Songyong could defeat. With Her Highness Empyrean Fairy helping Dongbua Shuiying, even without the Calm Sea Prefecture Master, I have no hope of winning. Let's go. Monarch Songyong turned around and left without any hesitation. He held the initiative in the first place, and coupled with the fact that the surrounding arrays were under his control, he left without any hesitation. Riding a starfield flying ship, he collected the array plate before entering the spacetime tunnel and leaving. Your Highness Dongbua Songyong will return in a few days to offer my apologies. This old dragon is very difficult to deal with, so I'll be taking my leave first. Monarch Songyong's voice rang out in Dongbua Shuiying's mind. Dongbua Shuiying was startled. Offer my apologies. He was at a disadvantage in front of Monarch Songyong. Yet he still wanted to apologize? World deity Shen Tu was killed by me, and yet he personally came to kill me just because of my subordinate's clone. Now that he can't win, he's even apologizing? Could it be that he has some sort of request? Dongbua Shuiying could not help but think of the mysterious black sphere he had obtained. I'll just have to deal with his moves when the time comes. As long as he could consolidate his strength a little more, he would not need to fear Songyong. Dongbua. The calm sea prefecture master flew over with a smile. Hua. The distant silver-haired, white-robed woman instantly descended toward the eastern region city, disappearing without a trace. Dongbua Shuiying glanced at her, then went to greet the calm sea prefecture master. Prefecture master. You've actually become a stage 3 world deity? The calm sea prefecture master put away his starfield flying ship and exclaimed in surprise. Now that I think about it, you haven't even cultivated for 40,000 years. 39,000 years, Dongbua Shuiying replied. Time acceleration was not counted in his calculations. Time acceleration was mainly used to comprehend secret techniques and secret skills. To truly comprehend the world, one had to do so under the normal flow of time. Truly formidable. In the entire history of the deity world and Dark Abyss, the fastest person to become a stage 3 world deity was Manor Lord Feishue, yet he took 53,000 years. The calm sea prefecture master sighed. You, on the other hand, only took 39,000 years. Impressive, impressive. Anyone who could create a new record was definitely not ordinary. Dongbua Shuiying hurriedly said. I had some luck. First of all, world, chaos whole, and extremity were the 3 true meanings he had cultivated, while he was still a transcendent. Back then, he had already cultivated the true meaning of mirage, star, and extreme piercing. As such, it was relatively easy for him to cultivate all 3. He was clearly much weaker in the aspect of spacetime. Most likely it would take him a very, very long time to succeed. Another reason was that he had coincidentally obtained the black sphere. Otherwise, even though he was just a step away from breaking through the bottleneck, it would still be normal for him to be stuck for 20 to 30,000 years. The black sphere's array diagram was incomparably profound, and it had given him many inspirations, allowing him to break through the bottleneck and create a new record. Who can create a miracle without a bit of luck? The calm sea prefecture master sighed in admiration. In the deity world, there are records of people becoming stage 1 world deities, stage 2 world deities, and even stage 4 world deities becoming powerful existences. Anyone who creates a new record is an amazing person. Once this news spreads, haha, Dongbua, your name will probably spread throughout the entire deity world and Dark Abyss. Dongbua Shuiying and the calm sea prefecture master chatted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. After that, the calm sea prefecture master left, though it was clear that he had become much closer to the prefecture master. Anyone who could create a new record was simply too astonishing in the history of the deity world. In the past, world deity records were set by Monarch Green, Monarch Extermination, Manor Lord Feishue, and Temporal Island Lord. Only Monarch Extermination had gone insane and died prematurely. The weakest among them was Manor Lord Feishue, who was also at the level of the 3 ancestors. Now that Manor Lord Feishue's record had been broken by Dongbua Shuiying, everyone had to consider how far Dongbua Shuiying would go in the future. This was also the reason why Monarch Songyong had spoken softly to Dongbua Shuiying. If Dongbua Shuiying was the only one who was stronger, Monarch Songyong could have asked for reinforcements to attack him once more. However, Dongbua Shuiying had become a stage 3 world deity and created a new record in the deity world and Dark Abyss. Monarch Songyong was afraid that even if he asked for reinforcements, he would not be able to do so. Monarch Songyong was also not willing to offend Dongbua Shuiying too much. Phew. After parting ways with the prefecture master, Dongbua Shuiying descended into the supervisor envoy's mansion. Disperse for now. Dongbua Shuiying did not pay any attention to General Mo, who had come over to flatter him, nor did he pay any attention to his subordinates. He only gave them a few instructions before descending into his own mansion. Next to a vast lake within the supervisor envoy's mansion, Dongbua Shuiying descended. He looked at a corridor not too far away, where Jing Qiu, dressed in dark blue robes, was walking towards him. With a smile on her face, she said, "Snow Eagle, did you see the battle earlier?" Dongbo Shuiying asked with a smile. Jing Qiu seemed to be very happy. The entire residence is talking about it now. Dongbo Shuiying suddenly reached out and grabbed his wife's hand. Jing Qiu was taken aback. "Let's walk along the lakeside," Dongbo Shuiying said. Jing Qiu nodded lightly. As the couple walked along the lakeside, Dongbo Shuiying did not say a word. At this moment, his emotions were in a state of turmoil, and Jing Qiu could faintly sense it. Seeing a bird dive into the lake and pick up a fish with its beak, causing ripples to form on the surface of the lake, Dongbo Shuiying turned to look at his wife. "Jing Qiu, that silver-haired girl is you, right?" Chapter 526. Jing Qiu's heart tightened as she stared at the black-robed youth in front of her. This was a secret she had been hiding all this time. She had too many misgivings, so she had never dared to speak of it. But this time she had made her move. Even though she had been very cautious in restraining her aura and body shape, she had still been recognized. Jing Qiu had mentally prepared herself for this. After all, they were husband and wife. Outsiders might not be able to tell, but it was possible for her husband to. Jing Qiu nodded lightly, but she was still very nervous. She was afraid. Because she cared too much about her husband, she was afraid. "Reincarnated?" Dongbo Shuiying asked. "Yes." Jing Qiu took a deep breath and looked at her husband. "You despise me?" Jing Qiu was so flustered that she did not dare to wait for Dongbo Shuiying's reply. She continued, "I only awakened my memories when I became a deity. Previously, I was known as the mysterious Star Sword Lady, the eldest daughter of Monarch Mo Shui. As such, when you met 7th Mei Yu, I was able to tell at a glance that she was a woman. After all, she's my younger sister. Furthermore, my father, Monarch Mo Shui, personally guided you. It was because he knew that you were his son-in-law." Jing Qiu carefully observed Dongbo Shuiying's expression. "You two already acknowledged each other back then?" Dongbo Shuiying asked. "We secretly acknowledged each other. Apart from me and my father, no one else knew," Jing Qiu replied. Dongbo Shuiying was puzzled. No wonder. No wonder he felt that something was amiss. Even though he had been rather dazzling during the myriad flower feast, Monarch Mo Shui, who could truly rival powerful existences, had actually guided him for 2 consecutive days. Moreover, he had taught him verbally and occasionally demonstrated. At that time, Dongbo Shuiying had been overwhelmed by the favor. Only now did he realize that it was because of his wife Jing Qiu. "At that time you even teased me in 7th Mei Yu." Dongbo Shuiying looked at Jing Qiu. Seeing this, Jing Qiu calmed down and said, "I was only joking. I was very happy to see my younger sister, but I just couldn't acknowledge you. Snow Eagle, you don't dislike me, do you? The dignified mysterious lady of Star Sword is loved by countless universe gods. I can't wait to be overjoyed. How could I despise her?" Dongbo Shuiying grinned. Jing Qiu heaved a sigh of relief. She grabbed onto Dongbo Shuiying's hand and said angrily, "I'm so nervous, but you're still teasing me." She was indeed nervous. Star Sword Mysterious Daughter was the eldest daughter of Monarch Mo Shui. Her background was extraordinary, and because of her father's relationship, she was extremely cold and arrogant. Simply put, the 7 daughters of Monarch Mo Shui were all colder. Monarch Mo Shui himself was also very proud and aloof. She was strong and her father was strong. Not many people could enter her eyes. Many female transcendents were single. In her previous life, Jing Qiu was much more valiant than those female transcendents. She only had one goal, to transcend and become an almighty being. Hence, even though she had lived for such a long time in her previous life, she had never been in love. To a powerful universe god like her, matters of the heart were no longer attractive. After reincarnating, she hooked up with Dongbo Shuiying and had a pair of children. After she became a deity and awakened the memories of her previous life, she was somewhat afraid. She was afraid that Dongbo Shuiying would become estranged from her after finding out. After all, not everyone would be able to accept knowing that his wife was an old fellow with over 1 billion years of memories. More importantly, Jing Qiu had never experienced matters of the heart in her previous life. Hence, she especially valued her husband, her son and her daughter. She was afraid. Hence, she tried her best to hide it. Of course, this was only one of the reasons. The other reason was because of her great enemy. Jing Qiu, rumor has it that Star Sword mysterious daughter offended one of the deity world's fierce five, old ancestor Golden Firmament, and was killed by him. Dongbu Shuiying asked. Yes, I did offend old ancestor Golden Firmament. Even father couldn't protect me. In order to escape, I simply chose to reincarnate and avoid this calamity. Jing Qiu nodded lightly. Hence, while I was in the prefecture, father and I secretly acknowledged each other, but I didn't dare to make it public. I even kept my deity avatar because I was afraid that old ancestor Golden Firmament would find out that I had successfully reincarnated. I was afraid that he would kill me again. Dongbu Shuiying couldn't help but ask, how did you offend old ancestor Golden Firmament? Old ancestor Golden Firmament. He was famous among the powerful existences. He was even stronger than his deceased master, Holy Master Crimson Dust, and close to the level of the three ancestors. The first of the deity world's fierce five was Pang Yi. The second was old ancestor Golden Firmament. He was much stronger than old ancestor Fierce Tyrant. Pang Yi was currently focused on perfecting his cultivation technique and kept a low profile. Usually, the deity world's fierce five would wreak havoc in the outside world. Their leader was old ancestor Golden Firmament. He was someone who could easily fight against the three ancestors and escape. Jing Qiu was a little embarrassed. It's like this. You should know of my previous reputation. Yes. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. I wholeheartedly cultivated to become a stage 4 deity, or even a powerful existence. I disdained absorbing faith stones, Jing Qiu said. Thus, I made preparations long ago to go to some ancient ruins in search of fortuitous encounters. In one of them, I was extremely lucky and didn't encounter much danger. I obtained an inheritance, a remnant piece of the heart sword diagram. Who would have thought that old ancestor Golden Firmament had already led 3 of the deity world's fierce 5, and spent a great deal of effort to break through the many dangers. They were just a step away from reaching the core. Who would have thought that I would be the one to pluck the peaches? I was also puzzled as to why I didn't encounter any danger at all. Dongbu Shuiying blinked. On one side were 4 powerful existences who had entered the ruins and broken through the many dangers. On the other side were stage 3 world deities. They had probably entered the ruins from another direction and easily reached the core without any danger. It's not entirely your fault. Dongbu Shuiying said, after all, you didn't do it intentionally. What's more, it has already happened. It's just a remnant piece of the heart sword diagram. It's just a remnant piece. Jing Qiu said in a low voice, my father also invited a powerful existence to resolve the matter. It was only later that I found out that old ancestor Golden Firmament had spent a long time to obtain 4 remnant pieces of the heart sword diagram. I obtained the 5th and final piece. As long as I can gather all 5 pieces, it will be a complete ancient absolute art. Dongbu Shuiying was flabbergasted. Hundreds of billions of years of effort, and I'm the only one missing. Many of the dangers in the ruins were solved by them, and I was lucky enough to obtain it. Jing Qiu said helplessly. Old ancestor Golden Firmament was about to go crazy. He wanted to capture me and search my soul. Search your soul? Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed. An absolute art? Even a soul search wouldn't be able to find anything, right? An absolute art's inheritance was extremely difficult to obtain through a soul search. Right. Actually, I wanted to record it down and impart it to him. But my realm is too low, and this is just a remnant piece. I could only comprehend a tiny bit of it. There's no way for me to record it down. Jing Qiu said helplessly. Old ancestor Golden Firmament probably wanted to capture me and search my soul in order to obtain as many remnant pieces as possible. After all, he's lacking in the last part. The more he obtained, the more he could rely on himself to make up for it. But no matter what, I couldn't allow him to search my soul. Old ancestor Golden Firmament's ferocious aura reached the heavens, and my master didn't show up either. Thus, I could only choose to reincarnate and fight for a chance of survival, Jing Qiu said. Many powerful world deities had lived for too long and could no longer maintain their original hearts. That was why they chose to reincarnate. They wanted to experience a brand new life, allowing their soul to regain its emptiness and vitality. But Jing Qiu chose to do so in order to escape. This was indeed a good way to escape. After reincarnation, even the Bloodblade wouldn't be able to find her. I didn't dare to reveal myself. I even temporarily stopped cultivating and focused on comprehending the Tao. Jing Qiu said. I wanted to wait a little longer. Snow Eagle, your talent and strength are dazzling. I felt that it wouldn't be too late for me to reveal my identity once you were strong enough. Otherwise, the moment my identity was revealed, old ancestor Golden Firmament would come. Donghua Shuang nodded. That's right. The news of him becoming a stage 3 world deity should have already spread, and it would probably reach his master, the Bloodblade, very soon. But old ancestor Golden Firmament, his master, the God Emperor, shouldn't appear for him because of this, right? Chapter 527. You're right. Donghua Shuang nodded. As one of the deity world's fierce 5, Forefather Golden Firmament is extremely ruthless. And you've really offended him. One must know that Forefather Golden Firmament is famous for his ability to flee. He can easily escape from powerful existences on the same level as the 3 ancestors. However, he is slightly weaker in direct combat, which is why he is slightly weaker than the 3 ancestors. If he could obtain the complete Heartsword diagram, his strength would increase tremendously and he would truly reach the level of the 3rd ancestor. You've ruined his opportunity, and you have the last fragment of the Heartsword diagram in your memory. He won't let you off easily. Jing Qiu was also vexed. But we're not afraid of him. Donghua Shuang laughed. Our true bodies are both in the material world. He can't truly kill us. Right. Jing Qiu was also confident. Now that I've reincarnated, I can be considered a new life under the laws of the world. The karma between us has been greatly reduced, and it's hard for him to detect my existence. Furthermore, I've become a stage 4 world deity, so I can isolate myself from karma. Donghua Shuang nodded. Eldest disciple brother Huiming, monarch Mo Shui, and the others were all capable of such a feat. Stage 4 world deities could easily comprehend other grade 1 deity hearts, and they usually had some understanding of karma. Thus, most stage 4 world deities would casually mention the names of powerful existences. However, Monarch Songyong, who fought with me, recognized me. Of course, he only recognized that the silver-haired girl was the mysterious Star Sword Maiden. He doesn't know my current identity. He knows that you helped me, and that our relationship is not shallow. Now, he should have something to ask of me, Donghua Shuang said. He shouldn't casually say anything. Jing Qiu nodded. For the time being, the two of them did not wish to deal with Forefather Golden Firmament. After all, he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Of course, they weren't afraid of him. As a stage 3 world deity, Donghua Shuang was also a lord of a material world. In reality, he wasn't afraid of anyone. At the level of Temporal Island Lord, even if they wanted to kill him, they wouldn't be able to. As long as his life wasn't in danger, he would naturally be able to deal with it calmly. Jing Qiu, you should hurry up and become a stage 4 world deity, Donghua Shuang said. After all, your true deity heart will become stronger after you level up. The speed of cultivation and comprehension would also increase. Since you are in closed-door cultivation, your identity will not be exposed. Even if you meet Yuer and Qing Yao, you can just form a clone with the power of the world. Your own strength is more important. That's fine too. Jing Qiu nodded. She hadn't broken through before because she was worried that her husband would suspect her. Ha ha, both of us are stage 4 world deities. Even if we do make it public, Forefather Golden Firmament won't be able to kill us. They might not chase after you like they did in the past. Donghua Shuang said. Jing Qiu also smiled. That's right. Snow Eagle, you are the stage 3 world deity with the shortest cultivation time in the entire history of the deity world and Dark Abyss. Right now, the couple indeed had the confidence to face any expert. It's only been 39,000 years. According to the information we received, Dongbua Shuiying became a stage 2 world deity in 5,000 years. Based on my calculations, it has only been 39,000 years since then. Monarch Songyong returned to his own palace. His cold face was now filled with anxiety. The shortest record for becoming a stage 3 world deity in the history of the deity world and Dark Abyss is even faster than Monarch Green and the Temporal Island Lord. The previous record was held by Manor Lord Feishue. Monarch Songyong sat cross-legged in a tightly shut palace hall. The interior of the hall was pitch black. Monarch Songyong sat cross-legged in the pitch-black hall, deep in thought. To be able to achieve such great accomplishments in such a short period of time represented astonishing potential. Throughout history, aside from Monarch Extermination, who had courted his own death, the other three had all been extremely stunning. If Monarch Extermination had not been killed, he would have long since reached the level of the three ancestors, given how he was able to suppress powerful existences when he was still a stage 4 world deity. Thus, Monarch Songyong was very clear about Dongbua Shuiying's current rise. He could not even find a helper. Thus, he was not too willing to offend him. Lower your head. Apologize. Think of a way to get the relic back from him. However, Dongbua Shuiying will definitely be able to guess that it is no ordinary treasure. I'm afraid he won't agree so easily. Monarch Songyong felt bitter in his heart. Let's discuss this properly. Even if I have to give up everything and give up my empire, it will still be a small matter. When Dongbua Shuiying and Monarch Songyong had fought, it had been in the sky above Eastern Region City. The commotion of the battle had been witnessed by countless deities in Eastern Region City, as well as many world deities living there. It was impossible to hide the news. When Monarch Songyong arrived at Eastern Region City, a mysterious stage 4 world deity, the silver-haired woman, acted to block him. Later on, His Highness Dongbua acted to fight Monarch Songyong head-on. Their strengths were about the same. His Highness Dongbua and the Calm Sea Prefecture Master conversed for a long time. Many world deities approached and sensed that His Highness Dongbua is indeed a stage 3 world deity. He might be relying on a legendary absolute art to fight a stage 4 world deity. It's a stage 3 world deity without a doubt. The Calm Sea Prefecture's Longshore clan has already spread the news. It's a stage 3 world deity. The Supervisor Envoy's mansion has also made it public. General Mo and the other world deities have paid a visit to His Highness Dongbua. His Highness Dongbua is indeed a stage 3 world deity. Piece by piece the news quickly spread. This news continued to spread throughout the Bloodshed God Palace. Even the Temporal Island, the Myriad God Palace, and some other remote and mysterious regions in the deity world, as well as the terrifying existences in the distant Dark Abyss, had received this news. In the deepest level of the Dark Abyss, this level of the world was deathly silent. There was only a single life form in the entire world. He was currently sitting cross-legged, and the breath he exhaled from his nostrils filled the entire deathly silent world, causing the temperature of this world to reach a frightening level. His body was so huge that it was unfathomable. Even someone who had cultivated the time-immemorial body to grand completion was nothing more than a tiny speck compared to this life form. Due to his huge body, if he were to lie down, he would be able to traverse the entire level of the Dark Abyss. His head would be on one end of the world, while his feet would be on the other end. As a result, he was the only person in this level of the world, and he would usually be able to have a good sleep here. Amen? As he sat cross-legged, he opened his eyes. His pair of eyes were even larger than the sun and moon. A brat has appeared in the deity world, and he actually became a stage 3 world deity in just 39,000 years? This huge existence muttered in a low voice, his voice reverberating throughout the entire level of the world. That Bloodshed brat's luck is truly good. Such a brat was actually snatched away by him. I've heard that he came from the material world, and that idiot from the Temporal Island actually failed to obtain him? Interesting. If he were to be nurtured properly, he might become a good helper. Deity world within the secret underground palace of the Bloodshed God Palace. In front of the Scarlet Cosmos Furnace, Bloodblade was currently sitting cross-legged. The black bird was no longer on his shoulder. It was unknown where it had run off to. Master! A vigorous voice reverberated throughout the palace. It was the treasure spirit of the entire Bloodshed God Palace. What's the matter? Bloodblade asked. Master, Dongbu Shuiying has become a stage 3 world deity, the vigorous voice said. Chapter 528. Bloodblade froze for a moment before a smile appeared on his face. If I'm not wrong, he should have cultivated for 39,000 years. Such a cultivation speed is much faster than mine. There are many who have cultivated faster than Master, but in the current deity world, Master is the strongest. Those who have cultivated faster than Master have mostly died. The vigorous voice said. I hope that he can continue on this path. Bloodblade was filled with hope. He stood at the apex of the deity world and the abyss, and those who could stand on equal footing with him could be counted on one hand. Over the long years, he had seen many ups and downs, as well as the rise and fall of many talented transcendents with grade 1 true meanings. The current Dongbu Shuiying had cultivated at a speed comparable to that of his eldest disciple Monarch Green, whom he was most proud of. Even so, Bloodblade was still just looking forward to it. After all, he had long since believed that his beloved disciple Dongbu Shuiying would have no problem advancing from stage 1 to stage 4. Only after reaching stage 4 would the truly difficult path of cultivation begin. At that time he would gradually come into contact with the world of His Majesty, God Emperor. In a desolate starry sky far away from Eastern Region City, Dongbu Shuiying and the silver-haired, white-robed woman faced each other from a distance. He smiled at his wife. Jing Qiu had long since evolved her inner world with the help of a large amount of deity crystals. Her inner world had continuously improved, reaching the stage 4 world deity realm in a single breath. Dongbu Shuiying had even given his wife many treasures, such as a treasure that could isolate all probing of the laws of nature. He had even provided her with materials so that she could refine her own blood-refined deity warrior. Although the process of refining a blood-refined deity warrior was rather complicated, Jing Qiu could do it herself with her memories from her previous life. Dongbu Shuiying had only cultivated for a short period of time, so he was completely clueless about medicinal pills, weapon refinement, hexing poisons, and many other aspects. Snow Eagle, last time I only used my deity energy to transform into frost sword energy. The conversion speed was too slow, and the amount of frost sword energy I had was too little. Since he doesn't have a world deity domain, dealing with Monarch Songyong was so difficult. Jing Qiu laughed from afar. However, things won't be so simple this time. As she spoke, countless ice sword lights began to surge around her. The sword lights were vast and mighty, and they quickly spread out for hundreds of millions of miles, like a surging ocean of ice. In the middle of the vast sea of frost, Jing Qiu was the ruler of everything, emitting a terrifying sharpness. Dongbu Shuiying was not surprised at all. His luminous sun force was also able to cover hundreds of millions of miles in the blink of an eye. Last time, Jing Qiu only had a deity body. Although her world deity secret techniques had reached an extremely high realm, the efficiency of converting deity energy was extremely low. How could it be as efficient as a stage 4 realm deity? Come at me. Let me see how powerful you are. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. The feeling of going all out against his wife was quite interesting. However, you have to defeat my world clone first. Immediately, 9 starry blue-robed Dongbu Shuiying appeared in the void. Jing Qiu had only been a stage 4 world deity for a short period of time, so her attainments in the world deity heart were not as deep as Dongbu Shuiying's. Thus, she could not forcefully suppress Dongbu Shuiying and prevent him from condensing his world body. Snow Eagle, you have to be careful. Jing Qiu's silver hair fluttered as she waved her hand. Hua, immediately countless ice sword lights surged forth. Dongbu Shuiying looked into the distance, only to see countless ice sword lights surging forth like a vast ocean. Like a surging wave from the starry sky, they arrived in front of the 9 world clones in an instant. The 9 starry blue-robed Dongbu Shuiying also began to display his spear techniques. At the same time, his luminous sun force surged forth. Bang! 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 The unyielding luminous sun force formed countless chains that charged forward. However, these ice sword lights were extremely sharp. Although their power was greatly reduced by the impact, they still managed to cut through the chains and continued to attack the 9 world bodies. The 9 world bodies displayed their spear techniques to defend themselves, but they were completely suppressed. Soon the ice sword lights pierced into their bodies. After all, no matter how good their spear techniques were, they could not defend against the all-pervasive sword lights. Although the time immemorial body had already reached the 6th level, it was still unable to withstand the sword lights. They were constantly penetrated, and soon, the 9 world bodies were crushed under the countless sword lights. Stop, stop, stop. I admit defeat, Dongwu Shuang hurriedly said. Only then did the ice sword lights retreat. Jing Qiu said, your real body hasn't even made a move yet. How can you admit defeat? My real body is indeed stronger than the world bodies, but only in terms of the Scarlet Cloud Spear. Dongwu Shuang shook his head. You've already destroyed the 9 world bodies, so how could my real body withstand it? I truly did not expect that the power of your ice sword lights would be so great after accumulating. Your strength is in no way inferior to Monarch Song Yong. In terms of strength, he was also weaker than Monarch Song Yong. Previously, in the battle above East Region City, he and Jing Qiu had joined hands to stop Monarch Song Yong. Jing Qiu smiled. My ice sword lights have also absorbed some of the profound mysteries of the heart sword diagram, so they are even more powerful. However, the heart sword diagram is too profound. I plan to properly comprehend the heart sword diagram after I finish refining the blood-refined deity armament. Dongwu Shuang shook his head. I never expected that I, Dongwu Shuang, with my illustrious reputation, would not even be able to defeat my own wife. I'll cultivate as long as you cultivate. Jing Qiu curled her lips. Ha ha, I'm just teasing you. Don't worry, your man will be able to defeat you very soon. Dongwu Shuang laughed. Come, let's go back. All right. Jing Qiu nodded. The two immediately boarded the Starfield flying ship and traveled through the space-time tunnel back to East Region City. After returning to the supervisor envoy's residence, Jing Qiu quietly went into seclusion. With her strength, it was only natural that no one would notice her. After all, there were only 2 Stage 4 world deities in the entire Calm Sea Prefecture. One was the Calm Sea Prefecture Master, and the other was Jing Qiu. Dongwu Shuang went to see his daughter and give her some pointers on her cultivation. Qingyao, comprehending the laws of heaven and earth, should focus on the essence of things. However, this is too prejudiced. You should temporarily let go of your current comprehension and try again in a different direction. Dongwu Shuang extended his hand, condensing the power of the world into a sword. Although he had never studied sword techniques, the essence of the laws of heaven and earth was the same. Since Dongwu Shuang's realm was much higher than his daughter's, he could naturally give her some pointers in a simpler way. Dongwu and Qingyao listened attentively. She had grown up listening to her father's stories, and she worshipped him immensely. As he was giving pointers to his daughter, a sudden surge of power was transmitted over. Dongwu Shuang immediately sensed that this power belonged to his master. Although he had a treasure that could isolate all laws of heaven and earth, he did not dare to obstruct his master. Dongwu. A voice resounded in his mind. Master. Dongwu Shuang hurriedly replied. To be able to become a Stage 3 world deity in such a short period of time, not bad. However, you should know that many Grade 1 true meaning transcendents ended up being stuck at Stage 4. Even Monarch Extermination, whose talent was not any weaker than yours, ended up destroying himself. Your path of cultivation has only just begun. Do not be arrogant. Cultivation is also the cultivation of the heart. Bloodblade continued, now that your fame has spread, there will definitely be many experts who will come to pay a visit or even befriend you. However, you must remember that not everyone can give you benefits. If you do, it will become karma. Dongwu Shuang was startled. Yes, master. This disciple understands. Amen, that terrifying power immediately retreated. Many experts will come to pay a visit? Dongwu Shuang frowned slightly. Bloodblade was right. Just half a month later, many experts came to pay a visit. Your Highness Dongwu, I heard that your Highness is looking for demon bone ash? Haha, this old man just so happens to have 3 kilograms of demon bone ash which I am willing to give to your Highness. A golden-haired old man laughed. There was also wine placed on the table in front of Dongwu Shuang. He lifted the wine cup and drank a mouthful before laughing. 9 Rigid Prefecture Master, this gift is too valuable. I do not dare to accept it. Previously, with his master's reminder, Dongbu Shuiying was extremely intelligent. He immediately understood that his current cultivation speed was extremely fast, and he had even broken the record of becoming a Stage 3 world deity. The various superpowers should understand that Dongbu Shuiying would soar into the sky very soon, and he might even become an almighty in the future. The moment he became an almighty, he might even reach the level of the 3 ancestors. Knowing that Dongbu Shuiying would have an extremely high status in the future, they naturally had to help him while he was still weak. After all, when Dongbu Shuiying reached the level of the 3 ancestors, Dongbu Shuiying would no longer be interested in their gifts. If they were to give it now, and Dongbu Shuiying accepted it, it would become karma. He would have to repay it in the future. Of course, if Dongbu Shuiying were to stop at stage 4, their gifts would be wasted. But this was a gamble. If they were to give it now, in the future, when Dongbu Shuiying became stronger, he would have to repay this karma. Of course, he could also choose not to repay it. If he did so, it would be a huge hindrance to his cultivation. Your Highness, a voice suddenly came from outside. Sky River Prefecture Master is here to pay a visit. What a coincidence. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the golden-haired old man in front of him. 9 Rigid Prefecture Master, you don't mind, right? Let Sky River Prefecture Master come in and have a seat. It has been a long time since I last met with that Sky River brat. 9 Rigid Prefecture Master smiled and nodded. However, he was somewhat unhappy in his heart. Dongbu Shuiying did not immediately accept his gift. It seemed that it would not be so easy to form karma with a gift. Star. Chapter 529. The 9 Rigid Prefecture Master and the Sky River Prefecture Master were the first 2 Stage 4 world deities to pay a visit. After sending them off in the following month, other Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. If it was an ordinary person or a weaker one, they would probably want to receive a sufficiently precious gift. But the stronger one was, the harder it was for them to receive a gift. Most of the visiting Stage 4 world deities brought demon bone ash along with them. Normally, it was impossible to buy even if one wanted it. But these overlord existences in the deity world could take out some if they really wanted it. After all, they had lived for a long time and had a deeper foundation. Dongbu Shuiying only said, I can't accept it for free, but I'm willing to buy it. 50 million deity crystals per kilogram of demon bone ash is enough for me to buy 5 kilograms. Although cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun required more rare treasures in demon bone ash, he did not have enough deity crystals on him unless he took out the treasures in Crimson Rock Mountain to exchange. Secondly, he was not in a hurry. After all, cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun would require him to become a Stage 4 world deity. Once he had accumulated more deity crystals, he could slowly buy it. This 50 million deity crystals per kilogram? 10 million deity crystals is enough. Those Stage 4 world deities still felt that Dongbu Shuiying's price was too high. 50 million deity crystals, I'm willing to buy 5 kilograms, Dongbu Shuiying said. This price was not considered cheap, nor could it be considered karma. It was just that they had some friendship. In the end, it was the first 5 Stage 4 world deities to rush over. Dongbu Shuiying each bought 5 kilograms of demon bone ash. They could be considered to have gotten to know each other. Sigh. It's not easy to form karma with Dongbu Shuiying. His Highness Dongbu is the personal disciple of His Majesty. He is not stupid. How could he casually accept a gift? In a short month, a total of 35 Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. Some wanted to form karma while others wanted to get to know each other. Many of these Stage 4 world deities came from faraway places. However, none of the almighties came to visit him. Only the familiar Chihua Laozu came to congratulate him from afar. After all, the almighties had already transcended. They were not as anxious as the Stage 4 world deities. The sun. It was one of the 2 most mysterious and powerful stars. Along with the moon star, it was located at the 2 poles of the immortal world, forever illuminating the immortal world, the material world, and the dark abyss. Furthermore, it was impossible to find it by flying normally. The sun was a gigantic fireball. The flames on its surface were liquid, just like the seawater of a planet. The flames of the sun star were also flowing, incomparably hot and terrifying. However, its power could radiate through the entire material plane, the dark abyss, which showed how terrifying it was. Its laws were much more complicated than the laws of heaven and earth. It was comparable to the laws of the material world and the dark abyss. Many almighties often came to the solar star. Ha ha ha. On the surface of the sun star, there was a house with a small courtyard. The courtyard was only about 10 meters in radius. Outside the small courtyard was the boundless flames of the sun. Within the small courtyard, there was a white-haired, youthful-looking old man laughing loudly. I, Chihua, am truly lucky. Back then I helped that brat Dongbua. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments today? I'm afraid that he might even surpass me in the future. Haha, the karma that he owes me isn't light at all. Back then, saving Jing Qiu was as easy as lifting a finger to Chihua Laozu. But to the Dongbua Shui Ying, it was something that he was willing to exchange with his life for. He begged the temporal temple for help, but the temporal temple was disdainful. They believed that Dongbua Shui Ying didn't have any value at all. After all, to save Jing Qiu back then, they either needed a rare treasure that could recreate a soul, or they needed a powerful existence to act. Both of these options were extremely costly. Back then, Dongbua Shui Ying was at his wits' end. Even if he begged for help, there was no way out. As a powerful existence, Chihua Laozu had acted. This karma, to Dongbua Shui Ying, it was a karma that he would have to repay with his life. Dongbua brat, your future is limitless. In the future, this old man will need your help. Don't reject me. When Chihua Laozu congratulated him, he specially added a sentence. Forefather, you only need to say a word. Dongbua Shui Ying will risk his life to help forefather. Dongbua Shui Ying was straightforward. There's no rush. At the very least, I'll ask for your help after you become a powerful existence. Chihua Laozu said. Dongbua Shui Ying was very grateful. Because Chihua Laozu said this sentence, it meant that this karma could be repaid after he became a powerful existence. Then, when he became a powerful existence from stage 4, the impact of this huge karma would be very small. 3 months after Dongbua Shui Ying became a stage 3 world deity, at the border between the deity world and the dark abyss, a gigantic black palm pierced through the void and descended, enveloping a region of 500 billion kilometers. That vast region of 500 billion kilometers was completely frozen. The venomous Ying world deity, who was originally fleeing in panic, stared at the gigantic palm in horror. She anxiously shouted, Monarch, Monarch, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Her other avatar had just been captured, and this body of hers had attempted to flee in vain. Spare your life? Ha ha ha. I'm going to give you to Dongbua Shui Ying as a gift. The terrifying black palm directly grabbed out. Venomous Ying world deity struggled with all her might, but the space around her was completely frozen. Venomous Ying world deity felt despair. The moment she heard that Dongbua Shui Ying had become a stage 3 world deity, she fell into a daze. She no longer had any wishful thinking and immediately began to flee. Now Dongbua Shui Ying had yet to act, but an ancient stage 4 world deity who had lived for who knew how long had taken action. This old man had carefully investigated the area for 3 months before confirming the whereabouts of the 2 bodies of the venomous Ying world deity. Only then did he act and capture both of them. It was true that the moment he acted, the venomous Ying world deity no longer had any hope. While the venomous Ying world deity was being captured, Monarch Songyong finally came to pay a visit to Dongbua Shui Ying in Eastern Region City. Monarch Songyong. Many of the soldiers and female attendants in the supervisor envoy residence were watching curiously. 3 months ago, Monarch Songyong had fought with Shui Ying in the sky above Eastern Region City. Now Monarch Songyong actually dared to come back? Furthermore, the one who had assassinated Commander Bai Lishang was a subordinate of Monarch Songyong. Both sides had a grudge against each other. Monarch, this way please. A world deity guard personally led the way. Having seen too many stage 4 world deities over the past few days, these guards had long since calmed down. Soon they were led into the hall. Within the hall, only Dongbua Shui Ying was seated. He pointed to the opposite side and said, Monarch Songyong, this way please. Monarch Songyong took a seat, facing Dongbua Shuiying from a distance. Your Highness Dongbua, I am truly ashamed. I hope that you won't take offense to my actions. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. Monarch Songyong, let's not speak such empty words. I, Dongbua Shuiying, may be confident in my abilities, but I do not believe that I can make a stage 4 world deity personally apologize to me. Furthermore, I only killed one of your subordinates' avatars. You personally came to kill me, and now you've come to apologize. Monarch Songyong, you must have a request, and it's not a small one. Admirable, Monarch Songyong praised. Speak. What is it? Dongbua Shuiying asked. He was also curious as to why Monarch Songyong had come. Was it because of that black sphere? Over the past 3 months, he had spent a great deal of time researching the black sphere. His true body had spent 100 times faster time in Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world, but he had still not been able to uncover its secrets. Even so, there was one thing he was certain of. Based on the profoundness of the formation, the black sphere was definitely an incredible treasure. Monarch Songyong looked outside the hall. With a smile, Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand, and with a rumble the door closed. I'll just say it directly. I reckon that your highness has already guessed it. Monarch Songyong waved his hand, and an illusory black sphere appeared in front of him. This is precisely the treasure I need. Dongbua Shuiying nodded with a smile. Just as I guessed. Could Monarch Songyong tell me what it is exactly? What secret does it have? Chapter 530. The 9 Rigid Prefecture Master and the Sky River Prefecture Master were the first 2 Stage 4 world deities to pay a visit. After sending them off in the following month, other Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. If it was an ordinary person or a weaker one, they would probably want to receive a sufficiently precious gift. But the stronger one was, the harder it was for them to receive a gift. Most of the visiting Stage 4 world deities brought demon bone ash along with them. Normally, it was impossible to buy even if one wanted it. But these overlord existences in the deity world could take out some if they really wanted it. After all, they had lived for a long time and had a deeper foundation. Dongbua Shuiying only said, I can't accept it for free, but I'm willing to buy it. 50 million deity crystals per kilogram of demon bone ash is enough for me to buy 5 kilograms. Although cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun required more rare treasures in demon bone ash, he did not have enough deity crystals on him unless he took out the treasures in Crimson Rock Mountain to exchange. Secondly, he was not in a hurry. After all, cultivating the 4th volume of Luminous Sun would require him to become a Stage 4 world deity. Once he had accumulated more deity crystals, he could slowly buy it. This, 50 million deity crystals per kilogram? 10 million deity crystals is enough. Those Stage 4 world deities still felt that Dongbua Shuiying's price was too high. 50 million deity crystals, I'm willing to buy 5 kilograms, Dongbua Shuiying said. This price was not considered cheap, nor could it be considered karma. It was just that they had some friendship. In the end, it was the first 5 Stage 4 world deities to rush over. Dongbua Shuiying bought 5 kilograms of demon bone ash each, and they could be considered to have gotten to know each other. Sigh. It's not easy to form karma with Dongbua Shuiying. His Highness Dongbua is the personal disciple of His Majesty. He is not stupid. How could he casually accept a gift? In a short month, a total of 35 Stage 4 world deities came to pay a visit. Some wanted to form karma, while others just wanted to get to know each other. Many of these Stage 4 world deities came from faraway places. However, none of the Almighties came to visit him. Only the familiar Chihua Laozu came to congratulate him from afar. After all, the Almighties had already transcended. They were not as anxious as the Stage 4 world deities. The sun. It was one of the 2 most mysterious and powerful stars. Along with the moon star, it was located at the 2 poles of the immortal world, forever illuminating the immortal world, the material world, and the dark abyss. Furthermore, it was impossible to find it by flying normally. Boom! The sun was a gigantic fireball. The flames on its surface were liquid, just like the seawater of a planet. The flames of the sun star were also flowing, incomparably hot and terrifying. However, its power could radiate through the entire material plane, the dark abyss, which showed how terrifying it was. Its laws were much more complicated than the laws of heaven and earth. It was comparable to the laws of the material world and the dark abyss. Many almighties often came to the sun star. Ha ha ha. On the surface of the sun star, there was a house with a small courtyard. The courtyard was only about 10 meters in radius. Outside the small courtyard was the boundless flames of the sun. Within the small courtyard, there was a white-haired elder with a youthful face laughing loudly. I, Chihua, am truly lucky. Back then I helped that brat Dongbua. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments today? I'm afraid that he might even surpass me in the future. Haha, the karma he owes me isn't light at all. Back then to Chihua Laozu, saving Jingqiu was as easy as lifting a finger. But to the Dongbua Shuiying, it was something he was willing to exchange with his life for. He begged the temporal temple, but the temporal temple was disdainful. They believed that Dongbua Shuiying didn't have any value at all. After all, to save Jingqiu back then, they either needed a rare treasure that could recreate a soul, or they needed a powerful existence to act. Both of these options were extremely costly. Dongbua Shuiying was at his wits' end. Even if he begged for help, there was no way out. Despite being a powerful existence, Chihua Laozu still acted. This karma, to Dongbua Shuiying, it was a karma he would have to repay with his life. Dongbua brat, your future is limitless. In the future, this old man will need your help. Don't reject me. When Chihua Laozu congratulated him, he specially added a sentence. Forefather, you only need to say a word. Dongbua Shuiying will risk his life to help forefather. Dongbua Shuiying was straightforward. There's no rush. At the very least, I'll ask for your help after you become a powerful existence. Chihua Laozu said. Dongbua Shuiying was very grateful. Because Chihua Laozu said this sentence, it meant that this karma could be repaid after he became a powerful existence. Then, when he became a powerful existence from stage 4, the impact of this huge karma would be very small. 3 months after Dongbua Shuiying became a stage 3 world deity, at the border between the deity world and the dark abyss, a gigantic black palm pierced through the void and descended, enveloping a region of 500 billion kilometers. That vast region of 500 billion kilometers was completely frozen. The venomous Ying world deity, who was originally fleeing in panic, stared at the gigantic palm in horror. She anxiously shouted, Monarch, Monarch, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Her other avatar had just been captured, and this body of hers had attempted to flee in vain. Spare your life. Ha ha ha, I'm going to give you to Dongbua Shuiying as a gift. The terrifying black palm directly grabbed out. Venomous Ying world deity struggled with all her might, but the space around her was completely frozen. Venomous Ying world deity felt despair. The moment she heard that Dongbua Shuiying had become a stage 3 world deity, she fell into a daze. She no longer had any wishful thinking and immediately began to flee. Now Dongbua Shuiying had yet to act, but an ancient stage 4 world deity who had lived for who knew how long had taken action. This old man had carefully investigated the area for 3 months before confirming the whereabouts of the 2 bodies of the venomous Ying world deity. Only then did he act and capture both of them. It was true that the moment he acted, the venomous Ying world deity no longer had any hope. While the venomous Ying world deity was being captured, Monarch Songyong finally came to pay a visit to Dongbua Shuiying in Eastern Region City. Monarch Songyong. Many of the soldiers and female attendants within the supervisor envoy residence were watching curiously. 3 months ago, Monarch Songyong had fought with Shuiying in the sky above the Eastern Region City. Now Monarch Songyong still dared to show up? Furthermore, the one who had assassinated Commander Bai Lishang was a subordinate of Monarch Songyong. Both sides had a grudge against each other. Monarch, this way please. A world deity guard personally led the way. Having seen too many stage 4 world deities over the past few days, these guards had long since calmed down. Soon they were led into the hall. Within the hall, only Dongbua Shuiying was seated. He pointed to the opposite side and said, Monarch Songyong, this way please. Monarch Songyong took a seat, facing Dongbua Shuiying from a distance. Your Highness Dongbua, I am truly ashamed. I hope that you won't take offense to my actions. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. Monarch Songyong, let's not speak such empty words. I, Dongbu Shuang, may be confident in my abilities, but I do not believe that I can make a stage 4 world deity personally apologize to me. Furthermore, I only killed one of your subordinates' avatars. You personally came to kill me, and now you've come to apologize. Monarch Songyong, you must have a request, and it's not a small one. Admirable, Monarch Songyong praised. Speak. What is it? Dongbu Shuang asked. He was also curious as to why Monarch Songyong had come. Was it because of that black sphere? Over the past 3 months he had spent a great deal of time researching the black sphere. His true body had spent 100 times faster time in Crimson Rock Mountain of the Xia people's world, but he had still not been able to uncover its secrets. Even so, there was one thing he was certain of. Based on the profoundness of the formation, the black sphere was definitely an incredible treasure. Monarch Songyong looked outside the hall. With a smile, Dongbu Shuang waved his hand, and with a rumble the door closed. I'll just say it directly. I reckon that your highness has already guessed it. Monarch Songyong waved his hand, and an illusory black sphere appeared in front of him. This is precisely the treasure I need. Dongbu Shuang nodded with a smile. Just as I guessed. Could Monarch Songyong tell me what it is exactly? What secret does it have? Chapter 531. Monarch Songyong frowned as he looked at Dongbu Shuang in front of him. Dongbu Shuang simply smiled back at him, causing Monarch Songyong to feel somewhat anxious and helpless. This Dongbu Shuang is truly direct. He knows that I can't do anything to him, so he has nothing to fear. Despite his helplessness, Monarch Songyong understood the situation. With a thought, his world deity domain immediately spread out. Even the treasures he carried with him that isolated all probing of laws were activated, ensuring that the hall was absolutely safe from anyone's prying eyes. Dongbu Shuang silently watched on. Your Highness, could you first let me see if you have such a treasure? Monarch Songyong asked. Sure. Dongbu Shuang extended his hand, and a black sphere appeared on his palm. Its surface was covered with countless uneven patterns. Monarch Songyong's eyes lit up the moment he laid eyes on it, and he became incomparably excited. With a single glance, he could tell that this was the treasure he had been yearning for even in his dreams. With this treasure, he would be able to greatly increase his strength. At present, he was just a young stage 4 world deity, and even those old fellows who had lived for a long time were much stronger than him. For example, Jing Qiu, who had obtained the incomplete heart sword diagram and fused it with her secret technique, was now comparable to Monarch Songyong after stepping into the stage 4 world deity realm. This level of strength could only be considered average among stage 4 world deities. Compared to new stage 4 world deities, he was slightly stronger. However, compared to eldest disciple brother Huiming or the Calm Sea Prefecture Master, he was still a notch weaker, let alone Monarch Mo Shui, who had fought undefeated against powerful existences. With this, my strength will greatly increase, and I'll be able to obtain even more precious treasures. My chances of transcending will also increase, Monarch Songyong thought. The stronger one was, the easier it would be for one to obtain precious treasures. How is it? Dongbu Shuang flipped his hand and put it away. Your Highness shouldn't be able to discover its secrets, right? Monarch Songyong laughed. I can say that in the entire deity world, aside from me, there is probably no one who can unravel its secrets. In the hands of others, it's just a plaything completely useless. Only in my hands will it be of some use. Oh, Dongbu Shuang responded. He had studied the black sphere for a long time, but he had not discovered any secrets. However, anyone with a bit of eyesight could tell that this was no ordinary item. Ha ha ha. I have already prepared 5 kilograms of demon bone ash. Monarch Songyong was extremely cordial. There are also 2 Zhou beasts, both of which have the combat power of stage 3 world deities. I am willing to gift them to your Highness, as long as your Highness gives me the black sphere. Dongbu Shuang clicked his tongue and sighed. 5 pounds of demon bone ash? 2 Swanee beasts? Although I have never heard of a Zhou beast, it is extremely rare for it to have the battle power of a stage 3 world deity. What a grand gesture. Monarch Songyong hastily replied, Your Highness, the Zouwu beast is a type of insect beast that I painstakingly raised. It is absolutely loyal. I heard that Your Highness has a pair of children. These two Zouwu beasts can be taken care of by Your Highness's children. They are definitely the best guards. That's a pretty big deal. What a pity. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. Previously, when many Stage 4 world deities came to visit me, many of them came to gift me demon bone ash. I also bought some of them, so I am not lacking in demon bone ash. As for the insect beasts, I don't lack these two insect beasts. Monarch Songyong's expression changed slightly. This Dongbo Shuiying was clearly not satisfied. His appetite was quite big, but what could he do? Your Highness, this black sphere is useless to you, Monarch Songyong said. As long as Your Highness gives it to me, you can name whatever treasures you need. As long as I, Songyong, am able to produce it, I am willing to give it to Your Highness. Furthermore, I can swear an oath that I will fight for Your Highness 3 times in the future. As long as I do not lose my life, I will not retreat even if I have to lose a clone. Dongbo Shuiying looked at Monarch Songyong. Smiling, he picked up the wine flask on the table and poured himself some wine. Don't be in such a hurry. Let's first drink a cup and slowly talk. Monarch Songyong could only suppress his temper and pour wine as well, accompanying Dongbo Shuiying in drinking. He had already said everything he could say. As long as it was within his means, he was willing to pay. Now the decision was entirely up to Dongbo Shuiying. Monarch Songyong, you still haven't told me what this is. Dongbo Shuiying lifted the wine flask and took a sip. Monarch Songyong hesitated for a moment, then said, This black sphere is actually an extremely valuable tool used to breed insects. Tool? Dongbo Shuiying frowned. That's not all. Is a mere tool worth you putting your life on the line? Although the tool itself is valuable, what's even more valuable is what's inside, Monarch Songyong said in a low voice. Inside the tool is an insect egg known as a flowing light insect. Snow Eagle's pupils shrank and his expression changed greatly. Flowing light insect? It was a very ordinary name, but it represented a legend, a very frightening legend. This was one of the most frightening insects out of all the countless insects. There was once a Stage 3 world deity who was able to breed a fully matured flowing light insect that could rival powerful existences. This was also one of the most enviable aspects of cultivating insects. It allowed one to cultivate an insect that far surpassed one's own strength. There's a powerful existence hidden within this black sphere? Dongbo Shuiying muttered inwardly. Furthermore, it was an absolutely loyal, powerful existence. The flowing light insect was extremely powerful, but by attaching one's consciousness to it, it could move independently. It could also be protected by the flowing light insect, allowing a world deity to hide within its body. Furthermore, the flowing light insect was famous for its speed. It was a terrifying insect that excelled in speed and could protect its master. In a head-on battle, it could rival powerful existences. It's just an insect egg, Monarch Songyong said. Monarch Songyong hurriedly said, without special breeding methods and painstaking efforts to raise it, it would be impossible for it to immediately rival a powerful existence. Furthermore, apart from me, I'm afraid that no one else can open this tool. I can tell you that the complex array diagram on this black sphere is equivalent to a lock. If one doesn't know the method to open it, they won't be able to open it. I'm afraid that not even His Majesty, the God Emperor, can do it. Can't do it? Dongbo Shuiying chuckled. That's not necessarily true. Monarch Songyong was startled. Your Highness, please state a condition. None of you can open it, and even if you do, you don't know how to cultivate it. He did not dare to gamble. After all, the Bloodshed God Emperor was the strongest expert in the deity world. Even if it was an absolute art, he would still throw it out. Such an existence might really know some unique cultivation techniques for the insect beasts. Perhaps he might be able to open it, or perhaps he might even have a way to nurture it. In truth, Dongbo Shuiying did not want to bother his master. Furthermore, cultivating insects required time and energy. You have a method to cultivate insects, right? Do you also have a method to open it? Dongbo Shuiying asked. I obtained it from the ruins. Monarch Songyong nodded. Give me the method, Dongbo Shuiying said. Without the slightest hesitation, Monarch Songyong flipped his hand, causing a thick black book to appear. Your Highness, you only need to use your consciousness to obtain the inheritance. This is an extremely ancient and precious method to cultivate insects. Its value is probably close to that of an absolute art. After all, there was a huge problem in cultivating insects. One needed to find the eggs to cultivate them. I'm saying that you give me this book, Dongbu Shuang said. Add 5 kilograms of demon bone ash and 2 by and beasts. This black sphere belongs to you. I'm giving you the inheritance? Monarch Songyong was stunned. Inheritance could be passed down from generation to generation. It was just like how Dongbu Shuang had learned the luminous sun technique. Although he had learned it himself, he had been unable to pass it down to others. This was because his cultivation level was too low. He could only teach it to others if he mastered it. That's right, Dongbu Shuang said with a nod. What do you want the inheritance for? Can't you just learn it once? Monarch Songyong was somewhat dissatisfied. The inheritance represented an ancient method to cultivate insects. Even if he were to make a deal with another power and let another expert learn it once, the other party would have to pay a huge price. Dongbu Shuang smiled. Haven't you already learned it? Once you obtain this black sphere, your strength will definitely increase greatly in the future. In the end, this inheritance is still an external object, isn't it? Furthermore, I don't have the flowing light insect, so it's useless for me to learn it. After all, I don't have the time to waste on it. What right do you have to exchange it for this black sphere? That's why you should give me the inheritance, as well as your previous conditions. The black sphere is yours, Dongbu Shuang said. Only then can this deal be considered fair. Monarch Songyong hesitated. He couldn't bear to part with it. He really couldn't bear to part with it. This inheritance was an extremely important treasure to him, and he hadn't expected that Dongbu Shuang would directly ask for it. Even if I keep it, I can only use it to make some deals. After all, I've already learned it, so it won't be of much use to me, Monarch Songyong thought to himself. As for not being able to teach it to a disciple, humph. If I'm powerful enough, why would I care about a disciple? Clearly, Dongbu Shuang didn't care about my previous conditions. Forget it. After the deal, I'll lose some external objects, but my strength will increase greatly. As far as I'm concerned, it's still worth it. Monarch Songyong made his decision after some thought. Looking at Dongbu Shuang, he said, Fine, I agree. Then let's make an oath, Dongbu Shuang said. Let my master bear witness. Chapter 532. Fine. Monarch Songyong did not hesitate. The stately Bloodblade would not lower himself to be greedy for such an item. Since both sides had come to an agreement, they naturally began to make an oath. The oath naturally stipulated that Dongbu Shuang could not be his enemy. After all, if Monarch Songyong's strength increased even faster, he could rely on the flowing light bug to threaten him. That would be troublesome. Of course, Dongbu Shuang believed that once Monarch Songyong nurtured the flowing light bug to maturity, he would have the strength to deal with him. This kid's luck is pretty good. This should be the 5th insect scripture. The Bloodblade in front of the cosmic furnace sensed the oath and immediately understood what was going on. He could not help but smile. Although nurturing insects is a side path, the 5th insect scripture has indeed reached an extremely profound level in terms of formation diagrams. It can be used as a reference. Monarch Songyong's guess was correct. God Emperor did not care about this insect scripture. As the strongest expert in the deity world, God Emperor's goal had already far exceeded the imagination of Songyong and the others. That was on a completely different level. After making an oath, he did not dare to violate it. The power of an oath was very strong. Even with the protection of the material world, Stage 3 world deities did not fear Bloodblade if they did not make an oath. However, if they made an oath, God Emperor's attacks would be much stronger, allowing him to kill Stage 3 world deities through the material world. If they were not in the material world, like the deity world or the dark abyss, the power of an oath was even stronger. Even Stage 4 world deities and powerful existences would have to be careful and not make an oath lightly. Once an oath was made, it was impossible to violate it. Ha ha ha. Your Highness Dongbu, you are truly ruthless. Monarch Songyong was in a good mood after obtaining the black sphere. He immediately laughed. Your conditions really make my heart ache. My heart aches. Dongbua Shuang also said, compared to Monarch Songyong, what I have is nothing. Obtaining this inheritance will not increase my strength at all. I just want my children and descendants to learn it, so that even those with weak cultivation talent will have a way to protect themselves. This was pure nonsense. Dongbua Shuang did not want his children to walk on such an unorthodox path. His Highness Dongbua really treats his children well. Monarch Songyong smiled. Since the deal had been made, he had no regrets. He had already made preparations beforehand. Even if he had to give up all of his treasures and even his empire, he would still obtain the black sphere. Because everything else was external, the flowing light worm inside the black sphere could allow him to fight against almighties. I haven't seen the flowing light worm yet. Let me have a look. Dongbua Shuang said. All right. Monarch Songyong placed the black sphere on his table and gently stroked it with his hand. Immediately, the uneven patterns on the black sphere began to emit light. This light illuminated the surrounding air, revealing a three-dimensional formation diagram. At this moment, this incomparably profound formation diagram was gradually changing. Many different parts of the three-dimensional formation diagram were changing. Whoosh! The light from the three-dimensional formation diagram retracted, and the black sphere began to transform internally. Many of the uneven patterns on its surface began to split apart, revealing a sparkling egg of light within. Lying within the egg of light was a strange worm. The worm emitted a water-like radiance that constantly flowed, occasionally taking the shape of a worm. Just by looking at it, Dongbua Shuang felt his heart palpitate. It was as if he could already see the might of this worm. He could not help but say, the flowing light worm gives me the feeling that after it matures, it will not only be able to fight against almighties, it will only be at the level of almighties, Monarch Songyong replied. Monarch Songyong continued, unless the flowing light insect underwent another transformation, but that would be too difficult. Your Highness Dongbua, you will naturally understand once you learn the inheritance. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Then if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. If His Highness Dongbua has any orders for me, feel free to let me know. I can do anything for His Highness 3 times. Monarch Songyong said with a smile. Very well. Dongbua Shuang stood up to send Monarch Songyong off. He knew that Monarch Songyong could not wait any longer, and wanted to quickly return to cultivate his insects. In the underground hall of the supervisor envoy's residence, Jing Qiu was currently in closed-door cultivation for a long period of time. Since she had become a stage for world deity, she could no longer wantonly show off in public. Normally, when she saw her son and daughter, she would only condense the energy of the world into their bodies. Dongbua, you can ask for more. No matter how much Monarch Songyong's heart aches, he will still have to take it out, Jing Qiu teased. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. That's enough. No matter what, Monarch Songyong will never give me that flowing light worm. Without the method to cultivate it, without the method to activate the formation diagram, it is impossible for me to obtain it. Since that's the case, I'll just have to take a few more treasures. What I value the most is this inheritance. An ancient insect cultivation technique can cultivate insects that can even fight against powerful existences. Just the formation diagram reflected by that black sphere is already so profound. Dongbua Shuang sighed. The existence who created this cultivation technique must have reached an extremely high realm. If we can use this cultivation technique as a reference, it will be of great help to our cultivation. Different paths had their own similarities. Then I'll give it a try. Jing Qiu was also very curious. After all, this was a complete cultivation technique. You go first. Do we, husband and wife, care about who goes first and who goes last? Dongbua Shuang laughed. Jing Qiu immediately sent her consciousness into the inheritance, and for a moment, she became completely silent. Only faint fluctuations could be felt, indicating that she was currently receiving a large amount of information. Only after a breath's time did Jing Qiu recover. Dongbua, you've really profited this time, Jing Qiu exclaimed. This cultivation technique is truly incomparably profound. Even if it's a side path, it's still quite amazing. Oh, Dongbu Shuang also sent his consciousness into the inheritance. Bang! A large amount of information surged into his mind. Countless array diagrams entered his mind, as well as all sorts of words. Only after a long time did he manage to learn everything. For a moment, a unique black book appeared in Dongbu Shuaying's mind. The black book could be flipped open, and within it, there were countless array diagrams and simple words to guide one. This black book floated in front of the true deity heart in his sea of consciousness. The true deity heart's small hands were still flipping through the book. The further one flipped through the black book, the more complex and profound it became. There were even some array diagrams that surpassed the array diagrams reflected by the black sphere. Black bug scripture? After learning it, Dongbu Shuang also understood the name of this cultivation technique. It was a technique specifically used to cultivate insects, and the most complex part of it was the array diagrams. If one's cultivation realm was extremely high, they would be able to use ordinary insects to nurture powerful insects. Naturally, it would be much easier to obtain terrifying insects like the flowing light insect. That was because they would naturally grow stronger. If one were to intentionally nurture them, they would naturally become even more extraordinary. Impressive. Dongbu Shuang praised. It's truly impressive. It feels like the laws of heaven and earth can be casually kneaded and formed into countless array diagrams. Jing Qiu also sighed in admiration. The two of them did not know how to cultivate insects, but this array diagram allowed them to have a deeper understanding of the laws of heaven and earth. This was also the main reason why Dongbu Shuang wanted this cultivation technique. Any top-notch cultivation technique was extremely profound and could be used as a reference. After obtaining the black bug scripture, Dongbu Shuang and Jing Qiu spent a lot of time comprehending these array diagrams. In fact, Dongbu Shuang even discovered many imperfections in his spear art, destruction. That was because there were some array diagrams that represented destruction. This caused Dongbu Shuang to be greatly moved. For example, his own secret skill, World Prison, had also started to fuse some of the insights he gained from the array diagrams, allowing him to create an even more powerful secret skill. In the past, Dongbu Shuang would often study the usage of the laws of profound mysteries in the luminous sun. But the luminous sun was extremely young and extremely tough. It was the same style. On the other hand, the black bug scripture could be said to be all-encompassing. Darkness, destruction, life, gentleness, treachery, tyranny. All sorts of array diagrams were an eye-opener for Dongbu Shuang. Only half a month had passed, and it was already interrupted. Humph. A man whose entire body was covered in black fur and armor revealed a trace of a smile as he stood at the entrance of the supervisor's residence. He directly said, "Hurry up and send a message. Just say that I, Emperor Flame Demon, have come to pay a visit." Chapter 533. Within the palace hall of the supervisor envoy's residence. "Monarch, please take a seat." Dongbu Shuang was seated behind a long table, carefully observing Monarch Demonic Flame. Monarch Demonic Flame's entire body was covered in black fur, and his eyes were blood red. He emitted an evil and cruel aura. His blood-red eyes were even faintly burning with flames. This was a stage 4 world deity with a fearsome reputation. He was much stronger than Monarch Songyong, and was also in existence close to becoming a powerful existence. Ha ha ha, Your Highness Dongbu's reputation has spread far and wide. Many of us old fellows are discussing Your Highness. Monarch Demonic Flame laughed. It's a pity that they didn't bring any gifts. Otherwise, they would have long since paid you a visit. Monarch, you praise me too much. Compared to all of you, I'm still lacking, Dongbu Shuang said. Ha ha ha, don't be so humble. If you and I could both become powerful existences, I dare say that you would definitely be ahead of me. Monarch Demonic Flame beamed. However, his face was so savage and ugly that even when he smiled, it was still quite horrifying. Today, I've come to Your Highness Dongbu's place to deliver a gift to you, as well as to plant some good karma. Haha, I don't expect anything in return from Your Highness. I only hope that Your Highness can help me out once you become a powerful existence. He was determined. If Dongbu Shuang were to become a powerful existence, he would most likely be on the same level as the three ancestors. The price to ask for the help of such an existence was simply too great. Oh! Dongbu Shuang looked at him. This monarch demonic flame was truly confident. Your Highness, please take a look. Monarch demonic flame waved his hand. Who? Two female world deities with enormous snake tails immediately appeared, bound in chains. They looked exactly the same, both were venomous Ying world deities. Venomous Ying? Dongbu Shuang was startled. Both venomous Ying world deities had a hint of despair in their eyes. She looked at Dongbu Shuang with a pleading gaze. Venomous Ying and I do have some enmity. Dongbu Shuang nodded. But she poses no threat to me at present. Once I grow stronger in the future, killing her will be as easy as lifting a finger. He no longer placed venomous Ying in his eyes. This venomous Ying world deity is extremely cautious, and it took me several months to capture her with the help of karma. After all, both of her avatars must be captured at the same time. But what Your Highness said isn't wrong either. Once Your Highness becomes a stage 4 world deity in the future and comprehend the karma deity heart, you'll naturally be able to capture both of her avatars with ease. However, I have acted to capture her so that Your Highness can deal with your enemies more quickly. Furthermore, the venomous Ying world deity has a treasure on her. Treasure? Dongbu Shuang was surprised. Your Highness, please take a look. Emperor Flame Demon flipped his hand and a green leaf appeared in his palm. The green leaf exuded an ancient and boundless aura, making even Dongbu Shuang feel inferior. This is a remnant of the 10,000 poison record, the supreme inheritance of the voodoo Tao. Monarch Flame Devil chuckled. I never imagined that this venomous Ying world deity would have such a treasure on her. Even though the Tao of hexing poison is a side path, there are still ways to transcend it. We can use it as a reference. Even though this is just a remnant, it is still a remnant of the 10,000 poison record. Dongbu Shuang glanced at it and shook his head. The Tao of hexing poison mainly focuses on the study of plants, rocks, and other myriad existences. I don't have the mood to study them. Monarch Flame Devil was startled. He felt slightly awkward. Dongbu Shuang was right. Indeed, every Tao had its own similarities. But if the array diagrams of the Black Bug scripture could be used as a reference, then the Tao of hexing poison regarding the study of plants, rocks, and other myriad existences was truly useless. Furthermore, it was just a remnant. Its value was even lower. For instance, the complete Black Bug scripture was much more valuable than this remnant of the 10,000 poison record. In truth, only absolute arts like the luminous sun, which could be cultivated and allowed one's combat power to rise explosively, were truly priceless. Even a portion of such information was extremely valuable. For instance, the heart sword diagram, fragment that Jingqiu had obtained, was also used for combat, and was similarly valuable. This was also the reason why Forefather Golden Firmament was so furious. Forefather Golden Firmament had spent a long period of time just to gather the final part of the heart sword diagram. Yet, because of Jingqiu, he had failed at the last step. Naturally, his anger would soar to the heavens. Even Monarch Mo Shui could not protect his daughter. Even Jingqiu's previous master, a powerful existence, did not dare to step forward. In her previous life, Jingqiu could only grit her teeth and choose to reincarnate, starting a brand new life. Forget about this remnant of the 10,000 poison record. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. He did not think much of it, and it was useless to Jingqiu. As for his son and daughter, Dongbu Shuang did not wish for them to waste their time on hexing poison. Furthermore, it was just a remnant. The venomous Ying world deity had cultivated for such a long time. If it were the complete version, Dongbu Shuang would still be interested. I'll accept this venomous Ying world deity. Many thanks, Monarch Flame Devil. Dongbu Shuang smiled. I'll remember this favor. Haha, that's fine as well. Monarch Flame Devil stood up. Originally, he had only wanted to give the venomous Ying world deity to Shuang. This remnant piece of the myriad poison record had only been discovered after he had captured her and searched her body. Shuang was a personal disciple of His Majesty, so it was within his expectations that he would look down on the Tao of hexing poison. Then I won't stay any longer. I wish Your Highness Dongbua good luck in becoming a powerful existence soon. Monarch Flame Devil laughed. I'll accept Monarch's auspicious words. Dongbua Shuaying also stood up to send him off. These old fellows all treated Dongbua Shuaying as an existence on the same level, and they all wanted to befriend him. After all, Dongbua Shuaying's combat power was at the stage 4 world deity level, and his potential was much higher than theirs. Even powerful existences could not underestimate Dongbua Shuaying. After sending off Monarch Flame Devil, Dongbua Shuaying returned to the palace hall. The two venomous Ying world deities were bound, and their true deity hearts had been sealed. They could not struggle at all. Her two avatars looked at Dongbua Shuaying, and one of them growled, Dongbua Shuaying, you're amazing. I admit that I was wrong about you. I didn't dare to disrupt your myriad flower feast, allowing you to become a disciple of His Majesty God Emperor and soar to the heavens. Dongbua Shuaying watched from the side. That's right. The reason why he could rise so quickly was because of his master. His master was the strongest expert in the deity world, and his guidance on the chaotic deity heart and extremity deity heart pointed directly to the essence. Furthermore, he had bestowed an absolute art to him, as well as many spirit fruits and treasures. Without his master's guidance, his cultivation speed would definitely have been greatly reduced. But this was also normal. Those who had created miracles like Monarch Extermination and Monarch Green had all received nurturing that was not any less than what he had received. Right now, I'm in your hands, the venomous Ying world deity growled. Kill me, kill me. Right now she could neither live nor die. Do you want to die so much? Dongbua Shuaying softly asked. The venomous Ying world deity was startled. A sliver of disbelief appeared in her eyes as she said, If Your Highness is willing to spare my life, I'm naturally willing to serve you. You're overthinking things, Dongbua Shuaying said. The venomous Ying world deity's eyes were filled with terror. Could you be? What she feared the most was Dongbua Shuaying using all sorts of tortures to torture her, making her unable to die even if she wanted to. That was a true nightmare. That was why she had shouted for Dongbua Shuaying to kill her from the start. After all, it would be a clean and efficient death, and there would be no pain at all. She would truly be tortured for millions or even billions of years. Just the thought of it terrified her. Seeing the terrified look on the venomous Ying world deity's face, Dongbua Shuaying sighed inwardly. The winner takes all. Back then, if not for Big Brother White Sand City Lord acting, if not for him being a grade 1 true meaning transcendent, his wife would most likely have been tortured as well. Oh no, his wife Jing Qiu might be a deity on the surface, but in reality, her combat power was probably above that of the venomous Ying world deity. His wife had truly concealed herself deeply, not revealing herself until the very last moment. Let us end our grudges here. Dongbua Shuaying extended his finger, causing 2 streams of white light to fly out from his fingertips. They drilled into the foreheads of the 2 venomous Ying world deity bodies, instantly destroying the sealed true deity heart within them. The aura of the 2 venomous Ying world deity bodies dissipated. Only a look of relief could be seen on their faces. Dongbua Shuaying shook his head inwardly. One could not be too overbearing in one's actions. Not giving others a path of survival was the same as not giving oneself a path of survival. Even though he was a personal disciple of His Majesty and a lord of a material world, he was only vicious and merciless towards his enemies. He would not be too excessive towards other world deities. After all, if one offended too many people, one could very well end up kicking an iron plate. The venomous Ying world deity had previously not placed a deity brat in her eyes. How could she have known that one of the people she had offended was a grade 1 true meaning transcendent, while the other was someone stronger than her, Jing Qiu? Chapter 534. Time passed. Dongbua Shuaying's influence within the Calm Sea Prefecture grew. Everyone knew that there were only 2 clans with the highest status in the prefecture. One was the Calm Sea Prefecture Master, the Longshore clan, and the other was the Dongbua clan. Even Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao had great influence within the prefecture. When it came to Dongbua Shuaying, many powers would find it hard to even meet him. As such, they could only settle for the next best thing, befriending Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qingyao. To this, Ying and his wife did not demand too much from their children. They only focused more on guiding them in their cultivation. As for the issue of their moral character, they had already endured in the Crimson Rock Mountain world for several thousand years. Their character had long since been set, and they did not have to worry about becoming a silk pants. However, there was one thing that made Jingqiu feel helpless. Dongbui Yu and Dongbui Qingyao did not really listen to her. Perhaps they felt that their mother was only a peak stage deity, and they were also peak stage deities. Why should they listen to her? Even though they were their mother, they only listened to her on the surface. In their hearts they still harbored some doubts. They did not dare to cultivate according to their mother's instructions, fearing that they would go astray. They worshipped Dongbui Shuiying even more, and they had absolute trust in Dongbui Shuiying's teachings. Dongbui Shuiying felt helpless about this. You two brats don't even know that your mother is actually a stage 4 world deity. Her realm is even higher than mine. Furthermore, stage 4 world deities are already beginning to comprehend the various deity hearts of the laws of heaven and earth. Others could only beg for such guidance, but these two brats were not willing to listen to it. But she couldn't say it out loud, so Jingqiu could only swallow her grievances. Still, she was worried about her children, so she told Shuiying many of her thoughts about her children's cultivation. In the underground hall of the supervisor envoy's residence, Dongbui Shuiying was seated cross-legged. A gigantic black formation appeared in front of him. The gigantic formation exuded a dark aura as countless profound mysteries fused together. Dark world. Dongbui Shuiying muttered softly. Flowers were blooming, plants were growing, the sun was shining, the wind was blowing, the gravel was flying, the river was rippling, the mountains were undulating. The world is colorful and all-encompassing. Everything can be accommodated. It's just that my current cultivation level is low, and my usage of the laws and profound mysteries is very ordinary. Compared to the black bug scripture and luminous sun, the difference is too great. Dongbui Shuiying thought to himself. In recent years, he had been meticulously studying and absorbing some of the laws of profound mysteries from the array diagram, continuously perfecting his own secret technique. The more he improved, the greater the gap between them. He was filled with respect for the seniors who created the black bug scripture and luminous sun. Prison. Dongbui Shuiying thought. Hua hua hua, countless white chains danced around him. They were incomparably gentle and rippled like water, permeating the entire hall. If it was said that when he was at the second heavenly layer, Dongbui Shuiying's world prison was still layered with all sorts of bindings and restraints, it was extremely hard to deal with. But now this world prison was as gentle as water, and did not seem tyrannical at all. Only when one was truly trapped in this prison would one understand how terrifying it was. I'm improving. After Jingqiu's inner world broke through to the fourth heavenly layer, and she obtained a blood-refined deity weapon, she is also improving. Dongbui Shuiying mumbled to himself, right now, she can only protect herself in front of my wife. Pitiful. Even now, he was still being suppressed by his wife. Although she had already reached the third revolution of the third volume of the Luminous Sun 2 years ago, greatly increasing her strength, the blood-refined deity weapon she refined was a gigantic sword that could split into 9 thin swords. These 9 thin swords displayed some of the techniques from the remnant of the heart sword diagram, and were extremely powerful. Clearly, the large amount of array diagrams from the black bug scripture was of great help to Jingqiu when she was comprehending the remnant of the heart sword diagram. Dongbui Shuiying was considered not bad amongst stage 4 world deities, but he could only protect himself. However, being able to protect himself meant that the two of them were very close in strength. In the starry sky on a cold, desolate star, this star was completely condensed from ice, emitting an endless amount of cold air. The gravity here was extremely strong, and even ordinary transcendence would not be able to survive here. Hua! An old man with snow-white hair and a snow-white beard, dressed in a black robe, suddenly appeared out of thin air, appearing in the depths of this icy planet's Grand Canyon. He stretched out his hand, and a crystalline grain of sand appeared in his hand. With a thought, the crystalline grain of sand changed into ordinary ice particles. He threw it, and the grain of sand in his hand burrowed into the layer of ice beneath his feet, becoming inconspicuous. So, he took a step forward and immediately disappeared. He had already arrived at another void far away. Looking at the distant dark star, the snow-white bearded black-robed old man laughed coldly. I am Shui, am about to lose my true deity heart and am preparing to reincarnate. Why would I be afraid of your threats? Humph, to be able to use this old life of mine, which is about to die, to fight for a future for my daughter, it is worth it. My daughter's husband is Dongbo Shuiying, humph. My daughter has already reached the stage 4 world deity realm. With my daughter's talent, although there is hope for her to become a powerful existence, it is still very difficult. However, with my help and her husband's help, she will definitely succeed. Monarch Mo Shui felt extremely carefree in his heart. Just a moment ago, another of his avatars had done something that made him feel delighted. Hong Long, suddenly, a huge black array diagram began to appear in the surrounding vast void. The array diagram spanned more than 1 trillion miles, and each and every star was just a small dot in this huge array diagram. Under the cover of the terrifying array diagram, the surrounding spacetime was completely sealed, and even solidified. Even with Monarch Mo Shui's strength, he could only fly with difficulty. Mo Shui, you can't escape. Hong. Consecutively, 5 figures appeared in different directions of the huge black array diagram. 5 figures, each with a powerful aura. One of them was a huge black dragon with its head held high. There was also an old lady, leaning on a wooden walking stick. The old lady's hair, however, extended for hundreds of millions of miles, turning into grayish-brown tree roots. Countless tree roots took root in the void. There was also a cold youth. Apart from the 3 of them being powerful existences, of the other 2, one was a charming red-robed woman, and the other was a rock giant whose entire body was burning with flames. These 2 were stage 4 world deities, but their power was not the least bit weaker than powerful existences. Mo Shui, your true deity heart is about to break apart, and you have no hope of transcending. Why must you fight with us for the true god weapon? The rock giant bellowed, flames rising from the surface of his body. Mo Shui, the huge black dragon said, if you hand over the true god weapon, you still have a chance to reincarnate. Otherwise, you won't even have the chance to reincarnate. I really don't know where you, Mo Shui, got the guts to actually dare to trick me. The cold youth's eyes were filled with anger. Mo Shui, if you turn back now and listen to me, I naturally won't treat you unfairly. The 5 terrifying experts surrounded him. Monarch Mo Shui laughed, threatening me? I, Mo Shui, have been unhindered in the deity world for over 10 billion years. And today my true deity heart is about to break apart. What do I still have to fear? If you continue to resist, you won't even have the chance to reincarnate. The cold youth bellowed. Reincarnate? How many stage 4 world deities can succeed in reincarnating? Monarch Mo Shui sneered. Don't use this to threaten me. Shay. Supervisor Envoy Mansion Underground Hall. Snow Eagle. Dongbo Shuiying was currently cultivating when Jing Qiu's voice came from another secret room in the hall. Amen? Dongbo Shuiying opened his eyes, and the door leading to another secret room opened. Jing Qiu immediately walked in. What's the matter? Why are you so flustered? Dongbo Shuiying looked at his wife. Jing Qiu was anxious and uneasy. Snow Eagle, something happened to my father? Chapter 535. Don't be anxious. What happened to Monarch Mo Shui? Dongbo Shuiying discovered that his wife's emotions were not quite right. As a stage 4 world deity, his wife rarely lost her composure. Jing Qiu tried her best to calm herself down, before speaking with a trembling voice. It's like this, one of the bodies my father left behind to guard the empire was ambushed and killed. What? Dongbo Shuiying was shocked. Monarch Mo Shui's avatar left behind to guard the empire? His strength is comparable to powerful existences, and he was left behind in his own territory, unable to even escape, yet he was killed? Jing Qiu nodded. A total of 5 people acted, 3 powerful existences and 2 extremely powerful stage 4 world deities. They are Emperor Prison Dragon, Withered Tree Old Mother, 9 Yang Palace Head, Red Transient Empress and Sovereign Zhe Nu. Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed. Father-in-law provoked so many experts to join hands to deal with him? And even the Dark Abyss got involved. Of the 5, Red Transient Empress and Sovereign Zainua were both stage 4 world deities. And Sovereign Zainua was a lava giant from the Dark Abyss. Extremely powerful. Although the deity world and the Dark Abyss rarely interacted, if a world deity dared to barge into the Dark Abyss, they would be surrounded and killed. However, most powerful existences would often move together and enter some ancient ruins together. If they reached the level of Bloodblade, even the Abyss ruler would be willing to befriend them, and Bloodblade's Bloodshed Tavern could be open throughout the entire Dark Abyss. Emperor Prison Dragon and Withered Tree Old Mother are fine, but that Nine-Yong Palace head is the personal disciple of the Temporal Island Lord. He has an absolute art and is extremely powerful, close to the 3 ancestors. Dongbu Shuiying said. He actually disregarded his reputation and joined hands with the other 4 to deal with father-in-law. Jing Qiu nodded lightly. What about father-in-law's other avatar? Dongbu Shuiying asked. It's fine for now. Jing Qiu was slightly uneasy. Dongbu Shuiying heaved a sigh of relief and asked, then why did the 5 of them attack father-in-law? Father knows that I have reached the stage 4 world deity realm, and that you have become a stage 2 world deity in a short 5,000 years, and have been accepted as a personal disciple by God Emperor. Jing Qiu said. Father immediately relaxed. Because his true deity heart was on the verge of collapsing, he decided to give it his all before he reincarnated. Let's go to the extremely dangerous ancient ruin Lake Heart Island to explore. Dongbu Shuiying nodded lightly. The ancient ruins had survived until now. There were also differences in the degree of danger. For example, the ruins discovered by Monarch Songyong could be considered to be one of the less dangerous ones. As for the ruins of Lake Heart Island, it had an illustrious reputation amongst powerful existences and stage 4 world deities. This was an extremely terrifying remnant. Even His Majesty God Emperor, Temporal Island Lord and the others were unable to truly explore and understand it. Over the long years, stage 4 world deities and a few powerful existences had ventured forth wave after wave. Of course, everyone only sent their avatars forward. Even if he died in battle, he could at least cultivate it back. There were many special places in the Lake Heart Island ruins. For example, forming his own laws. The laws within the ruins of Lake Heart Island were very special. Even the operating laws of the God world were unable to affect them. My father was working together with Nine-Yong Palace Master and Emperor Prison Dragon. Jing Qiu said. Later on, my father discovered a true God weapon, and immediately fled with it, provoking the Nine-Yong Palace head and the others to chase after him. Furthermore, the ruins of the Lake Heart Island are filled with danger. My father has now charged into a whirlpool, and is currently trapped in the depths of the island. I was able to temporarily escape from the pursuit of the Nine-Yong Palace head and the others. The 5 of them then joined forces to destroy one of my father's avatars. The Lake Heart Island historical remnant has its own system, and my father is trapped inside, unable to reincarnate. They are currently in the Lake Heart Island historical remnant, chasing after my father. Dongbu Shuiying nodded lightly. Lake Heart Island ruins. Its internal laws were completely isolated from the outside world. Be it the laws of the divine realm, the material world, or the dark abyss, none of them could affect it. Therefore, he couldn't even reincarnate in the Lake Heart Island ruins. Because his soul was unable to leave the Lake Heart Island ruins. My father told me that even if he reincarnates, the possibility of him regaining his memories after becoming a god is very low. He had lived long enough, so he risked his life to obtain this true god weapon. Jing Qiu said softly, "My father told me where he hid the true god weapon. It is in the depths of the Lake Heart Island historical remnant. Although my father is still fleeing, he doesn't have the true god weapon on him. Even if the Nine-Yong Palace head and the others managed to catch up to my father, they wouldn't be able to obtain the true god weapon." Jing Qiu's voice was very soft, and her eyes were slightly red. Dongbu Shuiying sighed inwardly. This father-in-law was really going all out for his daughter. It was too easy for an expert to hide a true god weapon. Monarch Mo Shui could casually take out a few treasures that could isolate all probing. As long as the true god weapon's aura was isolated, it could isolate all probing. Within the enormous Lake Heart Island historical remnant, it was hidden somewhere. How could others discover it? True God weapon. No wonder the Nanyang Palace head and the others went crazy. Dongbo Shuiying sighed. Jingqiu nodded. I advised my father, but he wasn't willing to lower his head. However, within the Lake Heart Island historical remnant, my father is basically unable to reincarnate. Although the chances of reincarnation are low, there is still hope. Didn't I succeed? My father said that using his life that is about to collapse, to exchange for a true God weapon, it is worth it. But Dongbo Shuiying could completely understand Monarch Mo Shui's thoughts. True God weapon. What was a true God weapon? According to the cultivation realms, cultivators could be divided into transcendents, deities, world deities, and powerful existences. And powerful existences had another name, called true God. Only those who had transcended from the river of time, truly eternal gods, had the qualifications to be called true God. They had already truly grasped their own fate, transcending above the laws of heaven and earth. They had even begun to weave their own laws. Just like world deity weapons to world deities, true God weapons were also very important to powerful existences. Because in the deity world and abyss there were countless world deities. Naturally, there were those who were proficient in refining weapons, and there were even powerful existences. Thus, refining a world deity weapon was an extremely easy matter. But refining a true God weapon was extremely difficult. Those ordinary powerful existences could not even refine a true God weapon. At most, they could refine a Eden treasure that contained the complete laws of heaven and earth. A Eden treasure did not need to be used for battle. It only needed to open up a world within. Thus, it was the simplest true God weapon. Usually, what powerful existences fought for were those true God weapons that were used for battle. Those true God weapons, every single one of them contained the complete laws of heaven and earth, and possessed the power to destroy the heavens and earth. But the difficulty in refining them was too great. Usually, only those at the level of Bloodblade and the Temporal Island Lord could barely refine them after spending a lot of effort. Thus, in the deity world, the number of true God weapons were very few. Among powerful existences, 8 or 9 out of 10 did not have a true God weapon. Something that could make powerful existences go crazy. Your father is not willing to give it up. That is very normal. Dongbo Shuiying said. This is a simple and unadorned godly sword. Father knows that I am researching sword techniques, so he is even more unwilling to give it up. Jingqiu said with a pained heart. But to give up the chance to reincarnate just like that? Reincarnating was equivalent to a chance for a brand new life. Even though it was not guaranteed success, the moment one gave up, it would be a definite failure. He would really die. Father. Jingqiu had a pained expression. Snow Eagle, if only I did not hide my identity and revealed it earlier, they would know that Dongbo Shuiying's wife is the daughter of Monarch Mo Shui. Wouldn't they have some restraining fear, and not be so ruthless? Don't think so much. Dongbo Shuiying lightly hugged his wife. Even if you reveal your identity, those 5 would not care about me. Jingqiu said, oh right, my father has hidden all his treasures on an icy star. Let us go and retrieve them first. All right. He instructed his subordinates, telling them to report to him if there was anything. Following which, Dongbo Shuiying brought Jingqiu and left stealthily. They sat on the Starfield flying ship as they traveled. After leaving the territory of the Bloodshed God Palace, with the detailed star map provided by Monarch Mo Shui, the Starfield flying ship soon arrived at an icy star. After keeping the Starfield flying ship, Dongbo Shuiying and the masked silver-haired woman landed on the surface of the icy star. Jingqiu had to conceal her identity when moving outside. Otherwise, if others were to find out that Dongbo Shuiying's wife was a stage 4 world deity, it would definitely attract a lot of attention. She might even be seen through by Forefather Golden Firmament. That would be a huge problem. Naturally, it was best to avoid trouble as much as possible. It's just up ahead. Jingqiu surveyed her surroundings, then brought Dongbo Shuiying forward. With a single step, she crossed thousands of kilometers. After just a few steps, they arrived at the deepest part of a gloomy canyon. Jingqiu swept her gaze across, confirming the region. Chapter 536. Dongbu Shuiying watched from the side. He could guess that the treasure hidden by his father-in-law was definitely something that blocked all probing. Jing Qiu extended her fair right hand and pointed forward. The gigantic layer of ice on the ground of the canyon began to tear apart and float upwards. Following that, the gigantic layer of ice that floated upwards began to rapidly disappear. The might of a stage 4 world deity, even a trace of it, was enough to destroy this entire planet. Not to mention the thousands of miles of ice floating in the air. The layer of ice turned into nothingness, leaving behind only a few ice crystal fragments. That's it. Jing Qiu waved her hand, and the ice crystal fragments landed on her palm. Let's go, Jing Qiu said. The two of them sat on the Starfield flying ship and returned. On the Starfield flying ship. This is Father's Eden treasure. Jing Qiu looked at the sand in her palm. Since Father sent his avatar to the Lake Heart Island, he naturally wouldn't bring the Eden treasure with him. Now that Father is in the Lake Heart Island, the ruins are filled with danger. Nanyang Palace head and the other 4 enemies, as well as other experts, will probably join in as well. Jing Qiu's eyes were filled with anxiety. Jing Qiu, why don't we go to the Lake Heart Island? Dongbu Shuiying said. Jing Qiu raised her head and looked at Dongbu Shuiying. Her eyes were filled with shock. Snow Eagle, go to the Lake Heart Island? But that place is too dangerous. There's no need for you to take such a risk just because of my father. She did have the intention to help her father, but she wasn't willing to let Dongbu Shuiying take such a risk. Your husband's original body is in the material world. What's there to be afraid of? At most, this body will just die in the Lake Heart Island. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. Moreover, I feel that I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation. I'm not very proficient in the Tao of space-time, so it's quite taxing for me to cultivate. More importantly, it's been a long time since I've experienced danger. I can feel my willpower and fighting spirit fading away. I need to experience danger. A blade gets sharper the more it is sharpened. Living too comfortably will only corrode our fighting spirit. Dongbu Shuiying said, you and I are both stage 4 world deities, so the danger level of ordinary ruins is slightly lower. The Lake Heart Island relic was fraught with danger. That was what made it interesting. Saving father-in-law is one aspect of this trip, and the other is to train ourselves. When Jing Qiu heard this, her heart was moved. If he wanted to temper himself, why did he need to go to the Lake Heart Island? That place was too dangerous. It had even surpassed the scope of training. Dongbu Shuiying looked at his wife and said, I've decided to explore the ruins of Lake Heart Island. Are you coming with me? Jing Qiu nodded. Let's go together. Before we go, we should make some preparations as well. Dongbu Shuiying revealed a smile. Yes, we have to be fully prepared. Jing Qiu was well aware of the level of danger. She did not even know if it was the right decision to bring the Snow Eagle along. However, it was clear that Dongbu Shuiying had already made up his mind. Of course, Jing Qiu felt warm in her heart. It was a magnificent and continuous palace. Flower petals fluttered in the air. Within one of the halls, the white-robed beauty, 7th Meiyu, felt somewhat uneasy. 7th Meiyu had already become a world deity, but as a stage 1 world deity, she could not participate in the matters of her father. Father, what should we do? Father is being chased. 7th Meiyu was anxious. Just a moment ago, her master Monarch Mother Whirlpool had issued an order, disciple, your father Monarch Emoshue's true body is being surrounded and killed. His clone hiding in the ruins of Lake Heart Island is also being chased. It's not good for me to interfere in his matters. From today onwards you will stay here with me. Do not go out and cause trouble. Although the news of Monarch Emoshue was rather secretive, it had already begun to spread amongst the stage 4 world deities and powerful existences. Even the furious Nanyang Palace head and withered tree old mother had hinted to the stage 4 world deities to occupy the Emoshue Empire. In just a few days the news began to spread. Your Highness, the empire is currently on the verge of collapse, and the surrounding empires are beginning to infiltrate our Emoshue Empire. I'm afraid that the empire is finished. Your Highness, the Third Highness world deity clone self-detonated, and her palace has been occupied. Many world deities are beginning to betray the empire. Little sister, don't come back. Little sister, we're all fine. But the empire will definitely not be able to hold on. News came one after another, causing 7th Meiyu to feel anxious and uneasy. Monarch Emo Shui also sent a message, but only once. Little 7, you can stay at Monarch Mother Whirlpool's place without worry. The monarch is more than enough to protect you. You don't have to worry about my matters. Not worried. How could she not be worried? I want to see Master. 7th Meiyu wanted to beg her master. Junior apprentice sister, Master doesn't want to see you. She said that she won't interfere in this matter. The personal maid of Monarch Mother Whirlpool said. Of course she wasn't willing to interfere. This matter implicated too many experts, especially the Ninyang Palace head. He was the beloved disciple of the Temporal Island Lord, and his strength was also very powerful. No matter how protective Monarch Mother Whirlpool was, it was impossible for her to fight against several powerful existences for a single disciple. Dongbua Shuiying had also returned to the supervisor envoy's mansion, and was preparing to head to the legendary Lake Heart Island historical remnant. What? Dongbua Shuiying soon received news that the entire Emo Shui Empire was in a precarious situation, and would most likely fall apart very soon. Snow Eagle, what should we do? Jing Qiu asked. My father's clone is still trapped in the faraway Lake Heart Island historical remnant, and the surrounding empires have already begun to infiltrate. For them to dare to do so, I'm afraid there's a powerful existence behind them. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. To a stage 4 world deity, the size of their empire didn't make much of a difference. Moreover, Monarch Emo Shui hadn't truly died yet. How about this? I'll think of a way, Dongbua Shuiying said. He then used his communication treasure to contact Monarch Chani. It's me, Dongbua Shuiying. Your Highness Dongbua, how rare. I wonder if you're looking for me? I've also heard about Monarch Emo Shui's matter. During the Myriad Flower Feast, Monarch Emo Shui had once given me pointers in cultivation. I can't forget this kindness. Now that he's dead or alive, I'm powerless to do anything. However, I have to protect his Emo Shui empire. Oh, so Monarch Emo Shui and your highness still have this kind of kindness. Dongbua Shuiying quickly started contacting them one by one. Previously, there were many stage 4 world deities who came to visit him. Naturally, he had their contact details. He contacted more than 10 monarchs around the Emo Shui Empire, expressing that Monarch Emo Shui had done a great kindness to him, Dongbua Shuiying, and that he had to protect his empire. Dongbua Shuiying even asked them to help spread his message, letting everyone know. Emo Shui Empire. The graceful and luxurious 5th Highness World Deity He Shui was currently standing in midair angrily, looking at a grandiose troop in the distance. The leader was a stage 3 world deity. You're also betraying my Emo Shui Empire? This beautiful world deity He Shui said angrily. General Chun, my father has treated you well. The monarch's true deity heart is already on the verge of collapsing, and he has also offended many almighties. 5th Highness, I have no choice. The long-bearded world deity said indifferently. 5th Highness, it's best if you don't resist. Otherwise, if I accidentally kill you, there's nothing I can do. Good, very good. World deity He Shui's heart was filled with grief and indignation. Her other avatar had already left long ago, but seeing the entire empire falling apart, seeing the huge empire that her father had managed being destroyed just like that, she also felt grief and indignation. Suddenly, the long-bearded world deity's expression changed. He frowned and waved his hand. Retreat. The troops under his command were somewhat at a loss. World deity He Shui was also somewhat at a loss. On the same day, the surrounding empires that had begun to infiltrate the entire Emo Shui Empire quickly stopped, and Emo Shui Empire quickly regained its stability. This caused some of the loyal world deities of Emo Shui Empire and the daughters of the monarch to be somewhat stunned. However, very quickly, they received news that the personal disciple of God Emperor, His Highness Dongbua Shuiying, had already sent a message. During the Myriad Flower Feast, he had received guidance from Monarch Emo Shui in his cultivation, and he wanted to protect Emo Shui Empire. That was Dongbua Shuiying. To the stage 4 world deities, there was really no need to offend Dongbua Shuiying for Emo Shui Empire. Even withered tree old mother, Prison Dragon Emperor, and Nanyang Palace head knew about it, but they did not do anything. After all, Dongbu Shuiying's potential was indeed terrifying. Once he became an almighty, he would most likely be at the level of the three ancestors. Moreover, Dongbu Shuiying only wanted to protect an empire. It was not like he was protecting monarch Mo Shui himself. Naturally, no one was willing to smear Dongbu Shuiying's face because of this. 7th Mei Yu, who was under monarch Mother Whirlpool, also knew everything. Dongbu Shuiying publicly sent a message to protect Mo Shui Empire? 7th Mei Yu was startled. The youth who had participated in the myriad flower feast with her back then had already reached such a stage. Just by sending a message, everyone had already given him face. Because of father's guidance? 7th Mei Yu's heart was filled with gratitude. However, she did not know that Dongbu Shuiying was actually her brother-in-law. Chapter 537. The Mo Shui Empire regained its tranquility. Shuiying, who was located in the distant Bloodshed God Palace territory, was also paying close attention to the development of the situation. Once he found out that the surrounding empires had stopped their actions, he specially sent a message to express his gratitude. Those monarchs were all very polite, saying, "If we had known earlier about the relationship between Monarch Mo Shui and Your Highness, we would not have acted." All of them were very polite. Dongbu Shuiying did not blame them for their actions. After all, the world of cultivators was cruel, and if they did not have a good relationship, who would help Mo Shui? In fact, under the deterrence of existences like the Nanyang Emperor and Withered Tree Old Mother, ordinary stage 4 world deities would not dare to act. That was because Shuiying was still young, and at the time when he was showing off his talent. When he acted, everyone would give him some face. But that was only a small matter. If it involved a true opportunity such as transcending the river of time and gaining eternity, or a treasure like a true god weapon, then it did not matter whose face it was. Who? A Starfield flying ship left the Calm Sea Prefecture's eastern region city and began its journey. On the deck of the flying ship, Dongbu Shuiying and the masked Jing Qiu were currently looking at the colorful passageway around them. Snow Eagle, the Lake Heart Island ruins are said to have existed since the birth of the deity world, Jing Qiu said. You and I have collected a lot of information, and my father has also given me a lot of information. But no matter how much information you read, it is still different from experiencing it yourself. Most people on the Lake Heart Island have the power to fight against powerful existences, and only then are they qualified to explore it. Peak stage for world deities like us will still find it very difficult to explore it. There are some stage 4 world deities who enter, but they are prepared to lose their avatars. Jing Qiu, don't underestimate yourself. Our combat power is still quite high. Dongbu Shuiying grinned. He had cultivated the third boundary of the third volume of the Luminous Sun, greatly increasing his combat power. Furthermore, he had created 3 secret skills over the years. He was likely even stronger than Monarch Song Yong. His wife's strength was on par with his. Strictly speaking, she could still suppress him in a fight. Perhaps when compared to eldest senior brother Huiming, both of them were slightly inferior. However, among the universe deities of the fourth heaven, he was still quite good. He was much stronger than those newly advanced universe deities of the fourth heaven. Our goal this time isn't to enter the Lake Heart Island ruins to search for treasures, Dongbu Shuiying said. If there are any dangerous places, we'll just try our best to hide. This time our goal is to save your father and bring back the true god weapon. Jing Qiu nodded lightly. If you feel that it's dangerous, then try to avoid it. If one's goal was to find treasures, the more special a place was, the more one would want to explore it. Only special places would contain treasures. The purpose of this couple was different from the majority of stage 4 world deities. The speed of the Starfield flying ship was extremely fast. Dongbu Shuiying and his wife chatted for a while before the flying ship left the Bloodshed God Palace territory and reached the distant Myriad God Palace territory. The Lake Heart Island relic was located at the edge of the Pantheon Temple's territory. We're here. The space-time tunnel opened up ahead, and the Starfield flying ship flew out from it. Dongbu Shuiying and his wife looked ahead. The flying ship's surroundings had been concealed by them, and there were also treasures that could isolate them from detection. Other experts who were far away would not be able to discover the space-time undulations here. Lake Heart Island. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu looked ahead. In the distant starry sky, there was an incomparably huge silvery white sphere of water. According to the intelligence reports, this enormous silvery white sphere of water had a diameter of 1.89 trillion kilometers. Even though it was called Lake Heart Island, in reality, this island was located at the very center of the entire sphere. It has existed since the birth of the deity world. Even my teacher and the others are unable to grasp it. Dongbu Shuiying sighed. I wonder where it came from. His Majesty, God Emperor, and the others should know about it. It's just that they won't tell us about it. Jing Qiu said, perhaps in the eyes of His Majesty, God Emperor, we are still too weak. Since they won't tell us, we'll go in and take a look ourselves. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. So. After keeping the Starfield flying ship, the husband and wife immediately tore through the void at high speed. With every step they took, they easily traversed a great distance. Hua. At the outermost perimeter of the sphere, countless waves could be seen rolling about. Enter. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu exchanged a glance, then charged in without any hesitation. Hong! The surface of their bodies was surging with energy. The surface of Shuiying's body was that of the purest and most unyielding luminous sun force, while the surface of his wife Jing Qiu's body was that of a flowing violet light. This was a world deity-ranked secret technique she had cultivated after becoming a stage 4 world deity, the Violet Sunrise. Firstly, it was so that she could conceal her identity and could no longer use her previous world deity-ranked secret techniques. Secondly, after becoming a stage 4 world deity, she would be able to comprehend more secret techniques by analogy. This was a secret technique Jing Qiu had chosen within Crimson Rock Mountain to complement her own sword techniques. So cold. After entering the interior of the enormous island, Dongbu Shuiying could feel the surrounding water surging. The coldness began to seep in, causing Dongbu Shuiying to rely on his luminous sun force to isolate himself from the cold. This silvery white water was incomparably heavy. Every single drop of water was extremely heavy. It was much heavier than an ordinary star. Only stage 4 world deities, who possessed the power to destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth, could fly within it with relative ease. The laws here are really strange, Jing Qiu said. Even I can't reach the critical god domain. My violet sunrise is being suppressed too much, and I can only extend it to a distance of 5 kilometers. Snow Eagle, what about you? Me? It's still spreading, Dongbu Shuiying said. His luminous sun force was indeed still spreading. Dongbu Shuiying was a stage 3 world deity. How could he fight against a stage 4 world deity? It was all because of his luminous sun force. Having reached the third transition of the third volume, his luminous sun force was already extremely ferocious. Every single strand of his luminous sun force was incomparably sharp, permeating through the water. However, it was constantly being weakened by the impact of the water. After permeating through a distance of 2 million kilometers, it was finally unable to proceed any further. 2 million kilometers? Dongbu Shuiying laughed. So far? Jing Qiu was overjoyed. The water of the island wasn't turbid, but they could only see a little over 1,000 kilometers with their naked eyes. The scouting treasures we brought are temporarily useless. They can only see the surrounding 50,000 kilometers. Your luminous sun force is truly formidable. I wonder how powerful it would be if you could reach the 4th transition of the 3rd volume. At that time, my strength should be comparable to senior apprentice brother Huiming. Dongbu Shuiying said, however, I'm still bitterly comprehending the 4th transition. My true body is also comprehending it in Crimson Rock Mountain, but I'm still far from it. An absolute art is truly formidable. Jing Qiu couldn't help but sigh. An absolute art that could allow a stage 3 world deity to possess the strength of a powerful existence. It was no wonder that even powerful existences coveted it. It was a pity that a truly complete absolute art was simply too rare. Almost all of them were in the hands of God Emperor, Temporal Island Lord, and the others. Oh, Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master also had an absolute art he could impart to them. The two of them were relatively relaxed as they traversed through the majestic water flow. Dongbu Shuiying's mind was constantly recalling the information he had read about the Lake Heart Island. The danger level of the vast water flow in the outermost region of the island was relatively low, but there were still several dangers that could easily kill powerful existences or even the three ancestors. Furthermore, the inner regions of the island were filled with terrifying dangers that even God Emperor and the others could only look on in awe. The luminous sun force permeated the surrounding 2 million kilometers, probing for danger. Dongbu Shuiying and Jingqiu carefully flew forward. Dongbu Shuiying suddenly frowned. He could feel a majestic power that seemed to be able to suppress everything coming into contact with his luminous sun force. This power seemed to be very smooth, yet it was able to suppress his luminous sun force in an upright manner. Chapter 538. It's an undercurrent. Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed as he transmitted anxiously. Jingqiu, there's an undercurrent coming. Jingqiu's expression changed as well. It was normal for some large lakes and oceans to have undercurrents. As for the huge silvery white ball of water on the island, it was only natural for undercurrents to surge. However, its undercurrents were extremely powerful, and every single drop of water was extremely heavy. Under calm circumstances, flying within it was an extremely strenuous task. This undercurrent was much more terrifying. The impact of the undercurrent was too powerful, and ordinary stage 4 world deities would not be able to withstand it. Only some of the more powerful existences would dare to use their bodies to withstand the impact of the undercurrent. Even if they could withstand it with their bodies, they would still be swept away by the undercurrent and lose control of their bodies. As for the weaker ones, they would not be able to escape in time, and would usually hide within their Starfield flying ship. The Starfield flying ship was an extremely sturdy world deity weapon. At the very least, it was much sturdier than the bodies of world deities and could withstand the impact. However, one would still be swept along with the undercurrent. If one's luck was good, one might even have a fortuitous encounter. However, the majority of the time it would be dangerous. Let's go. Dongbu Shuiying brought his wife along. Borrowing the luminous sun force, he sensed the direction of the undercurrent and began to flee. Hong Long Long, the enormous undercurrent covered a distance of over 100 million kilometers, its speed reaching at least 100,000 kilometers per second. If they were in the void, Dongbu Shuiying would not have cared. However, within the flow of the island, his and his wife's flying speed was extremely slow. They could only feel the undercurrent getting closer and closer to them. It covered a distance of over 100 million kilometers, making it extremely difficult to evade. Quick! Dongbu Shuiying fled with all his might. If we can't escape, we can only hide within the Starfield flying ship and try our luck. Dongbu Shuiying felt bitter in his heart. He did not expect to meet with trouble before even reaching the core island. If he were to die in the water, that would be truly unbearable. However, there were indeed many stage 4 world deities and powerful existences who died in the water. None of them were able to land on the island. Whoosh! Dongbu Shuiying brought along his wife and flew with all his might. Everything in this place was being suppressed so much that he could not even use his world deity domain, much less travel through the void. The turbulent undercurrent was like a gigantic monster, crushing everything in its way. The distance between them and Dongbu Shuiying was getting shorter and shorter. 1,000,000 miles, 900,000 miles, 800,000 miles. Snow Eagle, I didn't think we'd run into such trouble as soon as we entered. Jingqiu transmitted. There are meteors. Dongbu Shuiying was overjoyed. Lake Heart Island. There were hundreds of millions of meteorites orbiting around the central island. These meteorites were all inside the water current. Of course, these weren't ordinary meteorites from the starry skies. The hardness of these meteorites was beyond imagination. Even now, there was no way to destroy them. Hundreds of millions of meteorites formed an extremely mysterious array formation, protecting the island in the center of the lake. The meteorite at the center of the lake was the safest place for cultivators who needed to pass through the water. Quick, 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 it's on the left. Ying and his wife rushed in that direction with all their might. Fortunately, the direction of the undercurrent wasn't in the same direction as the meteorites. Ying and the rest were flying with all their might. I see it. The two of them saw a gigantic meteorite. The meteorite at the center of the lake was only 5,000 miles in diameter. It was still relatively small, with hundreds of millions of meteorites the same size. The meteorite itself was pitch black, and there were many huge ravine-veined patterns on its surface. These ravine patterns seemed like a mysterious and ancient array formation. However, it was only a small part of the array formed by hundreds of millions of meteorites. Ying couldn't understand these arrays at all. The ravine patterns were like a canyon. Ying and his wife charged towards one of the closest ravine patterns on the surface of the meteorite. The ravine patterns were at least 5 kilometers deep. Just as the two of them entered the ravine and heaved a sigh of relief, they felt a majestic might sweeping towards them. Hong long long long, the huge undercurrent swept over. The current was much faster and more ferocious, crushing everything in its path as it ruthlessly swept against the meteorite. However, the meteorite was indestructible, and it completely ignored the undercurrent. As the undercurrent swept across the surface of the meteorite, although there were some shock waves within the ravine patterns, they were much weaker. Hoo. Ying and his wife grabbed onto the cliff beside them. When some of the weaker shock waves swept across the canyon, the shock waves caused Ying and his wife to lose their balance. But very quickly the shock waves receded. Good fella. Ying and his wife heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, we were close to a meteorite at the center of the lake. Ying sighed. Otherwise, if we were swept along by the undercurrent, we would have no choice but to move forward. Although there aren't many dangers in the undercurrent, we would still be dragged forward by it. As long as we move forward, we wouldn't be able to escape from it. As time passes, we might still meet with danger and lose our lives. Snow Eagle, look. Jing pointed downwards. Amen? Ying looked over as well. This canyon was over 5 kilometers deep, and over 1,000 kilometers long. In the depths of the canyon, one could faintly see a mansion. Mansion? Ying was shocked. This was definitely a mansion, the mansion of a cultivator. Snow Eagle, let's go take a look. Jing said. All right. I wonder if it's a mansion built recently, or a mansion built a long time ago. Ying transmitted over as he flew over with his wife. At the same time, his luminous sun force spread out rapidly, enveloping the entire region. There are over 100 million meteorites at the center of the lake. Moreover, they are scattered across the vast undercurrent. It's already a coincidence that they were able to land on this particular meteorite. It's unlikely that they were cultivators from the same era. Jing said. Unless they're powerful existences with eternal life. Soon, Ying and his wife arrived at the main entrance of the mansion. The mansion was not considered big, but it was built quite stably. The mansion door was already half open. Most likely, it had been opened by the shock waves from the undercurrents that had been surging over the years. It's probably been a long time since a cultivator has been here. Jing deduced after taking a look. It's already somewhat dilapidated. Ying walked in. With a glance, he could see that some parts of the mansion were already damaged. The courtyard of the mansion wasn't big. Soon they entered the hall. The hall was maintained by arrays that isolated the undercurrent. It was completely empty inside. How desolate, Ying said. At the same time they walked through the back door of the hall. There was also a winding corridor inside. Soon they arrived at another hall. This hall was clearly more private. From the decorations, it should be a place for ordinary cultivation. Quick look at the wall. Jing who was walking in front, shouted. Ying walked over. There were indeed some words on the wall of the hall. Furthermore, there were 3 types of words written in different shades. It seemed like they were left behind by 3 different people. The leftmost one wrote, I, Zhan Yu, was trapped in the 4th stage of the heavenly stage. I built a mansion here to cultivate bitterly. I also sent my avatar into the ruins of the lake to search for opportunities. Jing Qiu said as she read. Snow Eagle, I've never heard of this stage 4 world deity Zhanyu. I've never heard of him either. Dongbo Shuiying said. Then he probably didn't become a powerful existence. Jing Qiu shook her head. Dongbo Shuiying said. It's not easy to become a powerful existence. Although there were only so many stage 4 world deities in the deity world at the moment, there were far too many stage 4 world deities since the birth of the deity world until now. Almost all of them were stuck at the final step, unable to transcend. The first owner of this mansion was also someone who failed to transcend. If he had transcended, even if he had died as a powerful existence, his fame would have spread far and wide. Dongbo Shuiying and the others would definitely know of him. Chapter 539. After reading the words left behind by the leftmost world deity Zhanyu, he did not gain anything. Shuiying looked at the words written in the middle. I, Chun Yutian, am also trapped in the stage 4 world deity realm, just like brother Zhenyu. The Lake Heart Island historical remains is one of the best historical remains in the entire deity world. There must be an opportunity that can help me break through. Reading this, Dongbo Shuiying looked at Jing Qiu, who replied softly, I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it either, and I'm afraid that it has failed. Dongbo Shuiying said before continuing to look at the words, I have yet to take that final step in my cultivation, but my true deity heart is already unstable, and is on the brink of collapse. I have no regrets in my life, and at least I have lived a glorious life for 10 billion years, and my heart is already satisfied. I have stayed in this mansion for a long time, and have discovered a secret. I guess that this secret is only known by a small number of powerful existences in the deity world, but none of them spread it. Since I do not have long to live, I will record this secret here, and leave it for the fated one. The secret is that there are hundreds of millions of meteorites floating around the Lake Heart Island, and all of them are indestructible. Even His Majesty God Emperor and the others cannot do anything to them. The reason why these meteorites are so tough is because they are made up of Calamity Stone essence. Dongbo Shuiying was speechless. Calamity Stone essence? This was a rare material that was not inferior to Demon Bone Ash. It was said that Calamity Stone essence could only be born in places that had experienced great calamities. Usually it would be in the form of powder, and each time it was born it would be extremely rare. However, Calamity Stone essence could be said to be indestructible, and was an excellent material to be mixed into equipment. The price of 500 grams of Calamity Stone essence was around 60 million deity crystals. It was something that could only be found by chance. What, these meteorites are all made up of Calamity Stone essence. This Lake Heart Island is made up of hundreds of millions of these meteorites, and they form a huge formation. Dongbo Shuiying could not believe it. Dongbo Shuiying continued to read the description. Although it's indestructible, as the saying goes, dripping water can pierce through stone. The mighty currents around the island had been crashing down for countless years, and the undercurrents kept crashing down. 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 100 million years, a billion years, 10 billion years. Even the sturdiest material would be damaged. The outermost layer of the meteorite on the island would have some cracks after a long time of crashing. As more and more cracks accumulated, the surface would break and fall off. Any random piece that fell off would probably weigh 3 to 5 caddies, or even 10 to 20 caddies. This is a huge treasure. Moreover, according to my judgment, this meteorite on the island wasn't formed naturally. Instead, the creator of the Lake Heart Island used an unimaginable method to lay down a terrifying array formation. This array formation was formed by absorbing the energy of heaven and earth, completely creating the Calamity Stone essence out of thin air. This method is simply unimaginable. The meteorite on the Lake Heart Island will forever be nurtured by the energy of heaven and earth. Even if it suffers some damage, it will still grow back. It's precisely because of the existence of the formation. Even since the birth of the God Realm, the ruins of the Lake Heart Island are still intact. After reading these descriptions, Dongbo Shuiying was also shocked. A Calamity Stone spirit could be born from a formation? Moreover, there were more than 100 million meteorites that were tens of thousands of kilometers long? We'll have to take a look later. Jing Qiu said as she looked at the last words left behind. She was startled and said, Snow Eagle, look, this is Emperor Heaven Cloud. Dongbu Shuang also looked over. Emperor Heaven Cloud was also a stage 4 world deity. However, he was much more famous. He was originally a transcendent with a grade 1 true meaning from the material world. In the beginning, he was taken in as a personal disciple by an ordinary almighty being. However, he had a fortuitous encounter and obtained a mysterious ultimate art. He relied on it to slaughter and battle to dominate the world. He was chosen by the myriad god palace master, who personally appeared and allowed Emperor Heaven Cloud to take him as his master for the second time. He received careful guidance. Following that, Emperor Heaven Cloud soared to the sky. With two absolute arts complementing each other, his combat power was extremely high. Having a battle record of killing a powerful existence while being a stage 4 world deity was simply inconceivable. Even though he was someone from 200 billion years ago, he was still extremely famous. Both Dongbu Shuang and Jing Qiu knew of him. However, Emperor Heaven Cloud seemed to have spent his entire life fighting and killing. He had a beloved woman who was also a stage 4 world deity. However, she died at the hands of one of the 3 ancestors of the bloodshed god Palace, the overlord of destruction. Emperor Heaven Cloud was filled with hatred. Because he was also a lord of a material world, he was fearless and fought with the overlord of destruction. The battle was extremely bitter. His avatars died many times. However, each time they were reborn from the material world and killed their way out. He killed too many, and his combat power grew stronger and stronger. When he was a stage 4 world deity, his combat power was already close to that of the 3 ancestors. Of course, he was not comparable to them. In history, there was only one stage 4 world deity who could reach the combat power of the 3 ancestors, the Bamboo Mountain Prefecture Master. The battle between Emperor Heaven Cloud and the Overlord of Destruction was too fierce. Bloodblade came forward to mediate. But it was useless. Emperor Heaven Cloud did not give face to anyone, and the myriad god Palace Master also defended his disciple. During that period of time, he had a huge impact on the entire deity world. Many powerful existences were afraid of him, and were not willing to fight with this madman. However, he failed to break through to become a powerful existence, and from then on there was no news of him. Who would have thought that a stage 4 world deity who battled heaven and earth, and even fought with the overlord of destruction for so long, would stay here for so long? Dongbu Shuang looked at the words on the wall. I, Heaven Cloud. I abhor evil. If I could not stand it, I would fight and kill. I was originally very happy. Later on, I met the love of my life, Qiu Lan. However, an old thief destroyed everything. I swore that I would kill an old thief, even if he was the master of God Emperor. Haha. An old thief was afraid and actually begged his disciple, God Emperor, so that God Emperor would give him a karma spark to plot against me. Since then, the endless karma has been transferred to me. But so what if the karma is huge? I believe that my Tao heart can break through all obstacles. I concentrated on cultivating in this meteorite mansion and spied on the core of the formation inside this meteorite. With the help of the meteorite's formation core, I could feel the vast formation of the entire island. I have comprehended a lot from it for many years. I believe that when my realm is high enough, when my Tao heart is strong enough, I will eventually break through the shackles of karma and become a powerful existence. With this message, I vowed to fight to the death. Now, although my true deity heart is on the verge of collapse, the closer I am to the final moment, the more I feel that it is time to break free. If I do not succeed, I will die. I must succeed. I will definitely succeed. I have also built a pavilion at the core of the formation inside the meteorite. Juniors should be able to find it. After finishing the words, Dongbu Shuang and Yu Jingqiu looked at each other. I really did not expect that one of the 3 ancestors, the master of His Majesty God Emperor, the overlord of destruction, would use the legendary karma spark to plot against Emperor Heavenly Cloud. Yu Jingqiu sighed. With such an identity, no one would dare to wait for Emperor Heavenly Cloud to become a powerful existence. Instead, it is a plot. However, such news has never been spread in the divine world. Dongbu Shuang could feel the domineering aura of the words. He could feel that the dazzling figure from 200 billion years ago could still have such a firm Tao heart even when his true deity heart was about to collapse. It was a pity that he was destroyed. Otherwise, he would have a bright future if he became a powerful existence. The Overlord of Destruction is my master's master after all, Dongbo Shuiying said. Emperor Heavenly Cloud was dazzling when he was alive, but he disappeared after his death. The reason why this news has not been spread is probably because my master and the Myriad God Palace Master had some kind of negotiation. Sigh, what a pity. Dongbo Shuiying looked at it and shook his head. Logically speaking, the Overlord of Destruction was on his side, but he couldn't help but lean towards Emperor Heavenly Cloud's side. Although Emperor Heavenly Cloud's Tao heart was unshakable, and he had to fight until the last moment, Dongbo Shuiying and the others knew very well that Emperor Heavenly Cloud had failed in the end. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.